Welcome back, Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 109, which is In the Mood for Love from the year 2000, directed by Wong Kar-wai. This is actually a movie that we've had on our list for a long time. We just sort of never got around to doing it, but super excited we're able to do it now. I would say that it's probably in the top 3 to top 5 most beautiful movies that we've done on this podcast, and we've done a lot of movies, as you guys are well aware. So really excited to see that. It is an absolutely gorgeous film. It is a romantic film, obviously. It's also in Chinese, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So highly recommend the movie, and also if you listen to the podcast and find out what we think about it. A couple of announcements. We have actually caught up with a bunch of podcasts, as you guys are probably aware. We did 3 of them in a week, so we are actually going to go ahead and do a watch party this Saturday, which will be January 14th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'd love for you to join us. We're thinking about doing Jurassic World Dominion, although we're not quite sure yet. It just became available on Prime, and we said, hey, why not? We can do that. But if you guys have suggestions for other ones you'd like to do or have, we can either do it this Saturday or the next time we do a watch party. Please let us know. Don't forget to go onto our Discord. Our Discord, if you're on our YouTube right now, our Discord is in the description below, or you can just go to martinigiant.com to find our Discord link there, and go ahead and let us know what you'd like to do. And if you are a member or if a supporter of us on Patreon or on our Twitch, you can get access to our members only section, which is definitely an area where you are allowed to do lots of recommendations as well. So go ahead and join us there. Okay, I do want to say that obviously we have been doing a lot of videos. If you're still listening to us on our audio, that's totally fine. But if you'd like to watch us in videos, we've actually been doing other little short videos as well, which have been a lot of fun. Highly recommend you go check those out. So just go to our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/@martinigiant. Again, that's youtube.com/@martinigiant. And because we've been doing a bunch of shorts, we decided to also open a TikTok, and we'd love to have you follow us on TikTok as well, and that is tiktok.com/@martinigiant. Again, that is tiktok.com/@martinigiant. Again, that's all the announcements I have for now. Hope to see you guys on Saturday, but for now, enjoy In the Mood for Love.
I totally forgot the images today, but usually I'm on it, Chris, so you can't...
You are usually on it. I think you got down the rabbit hole of AI, which is totally...
It is a rabbit hole.
A rabbit hole.
Yep.
It totally is. I was up so late last night, dude. Like 2 o'clock, like just checking out prompts. And I was like, oh, that's
pretty wild. It's wild business. I'm going
to put this in for everybody in the chat. Somebody from my last job sent this to me. It's pretty cool.
Jason knows I've been hard at work on Facebook trying to cool people down about AI.
It's funny because it basically what it is on Facebook right now is if you say, unless your response is, this is horrible, if it's anything else than that,
it can get rough.
And you're going to come off as the worst person,
as the Trump supporter of art.
As a Trump supporter
I've been called basically this. So yeah, like the thing is, like if anyone who is anti-AI who is listening, like I want to say that I am very, very open and easygoing to talk to about this, and always please feel free to chat with me on our Discord, or if you see me on Facebook. Like I am not a fighter on this thing. I want us all to be on the same side, because that's how we will all be happy.
Yes.
And I think that we can get there. It's just it's a difficult time, an upsetting time.
All I've tried to do is I've tried to raise questions to people for them to explain things, and it's like, you mean you're pro AI? And I was like, no, I just asked you a question. I didn't actually give you an answer. I just asked you a question.
Right.
Like about how, what do you think of Andy Warhol?
right.
Or, what was the other one? It was like this, this will take away our jobs. It's like, when I was at at DD, and you had all these RenderMan TDs who were so pissed off at ray tracing because they we didn't need to write a million custom shaders.
It's the nature of the game.
And they're like, but why would you need that? And I'm like, because it's like, this will take, right. I've trained for 20 years on how to write a shader in RenderMan.
And the thing is, like,
how about the guy who worked in a model shop over at Tippett?
Same
right
thing, dude.
Well, because philosophically,
the color timers, the guy who color time film.
Right. Like this is what happens.
With them. I worked with all those optical guys when I worked at Title House from '99 to 2001 on Melrose.
And the people that we've worked with who lasted through those changes, like still work doing the same thing, just in a different way. Like
and
this
the ones that didn't. I think I told the story. I saw one of the great Russian optical guys. I was at Whole Foods. He was doing the bagging.
It happened. This is like this is the thing. I think it's a great example because this is the it is a philosophical thing that we have to face in ourselves, right? Is that if we treat AI on all fronts, especially like talking about all arts or whatever is going to be turned into AI, like if we treat it like it's a competitor, it is a competitor. If we treat it like it's a tool, then we are in control of it. And when people say like, no, AI, I'll never use AI. Well, I'm just like, well, then you're saying I'll never use paintbrushes or 3D tools.
Here's a question for you.
It's a tool.
Now everyone is angry and they're pissed off and they're dropping ArtStation because of ArtStation's response.
Why? Why is it ArtStation's fault?
Because ArtStation, they're saying that they want ArtStation to tag their art saying that it's not, don't scrape this art for AI. Right?
You have to ask them to do that.
Opt in.
You have to opt in instead of opt out.
So now they're all pissed off. It's like, this should be off by default. I don't want to have to go through all my work and have to opt all my work. Right. So and they're also pissed off that it took him like 2 weeks to respond or whatever it is.
Sure.
Right. ArtStation's owned by Epic Games.
Yeah, I know. Like these companies are
Epic Games. You're gonna after all of those Unreal like joyfulness that you've been having, you're gonna ban Epic. Okay.
Right. So like this is the like so like I think that we should take the concerns seriously on the face of them and say like, okay, like this, like absolutely take that, like if they're ethical concerns, like we really should try to address them. You can't address it if you have no control over it. Like you have to go like, this is the way the train is going, so we have to be on the train, and then we have to say, let's switch to this track.
The only way to have control over it is to basically at least understand the questions and understand the technology and understand everything else. And it's not black and white.
Yes, and the thing is, like, I think that people are not in the mode they're not emotionally in the mode to try to face that right now. And I understand that. Like, people are super scared, super pissed off. I totally get all that 100%. I think that it brings up ethical concerns that are
visual effects.
But the thing is, like, there's
scared about your job.
Right. Like the ethical concerns that they're bringing up about people ripping them off are absolutely real ethical concerns that have always been real ethical concerns throughout all of art history.
Yeah, and
but
I just want to.
We have not actually had to confront them ourselves until now. So yes, this is important to confront.
I totally agree. Talking about it. I've done work where people have ripped me off. I did a beautiful nighttime neo-noir Tokyo with a guy on a motorcycle, and I did a drawing of that and art like 10 years ago, and everyone's using it now. I look everywhere. Sure. It's neo-noir. I'm kidding, of course. But the point is, I have worked on something. I co-created something that profoundly affected the art style of many following competitors who have made money off of this thing that I never saw. Yeah, I know.
So this happens.
But here's what I was doing. I'll put the link to the guy. He's a really good Midjourney teacher, and I'll put it in our chat for everybody if they want to learn. And the thing is, he's doing stuff where he's taking different levels of prompts and seeds, then taking those images into Photoshop and blending them together. Okay?
And being an artist with them. Yes, it's a tool.
And so when I used to, work in a commercial houses on site, now I work remote, it's like the concept guys were just grabbing pictures of the Golden Gate Bridge. And
No shit.
So how different?
People would scrape the web for shit and put it into their map paintings all the time.
Yeah,
for a bazillion years.
What is the difference? The guy's doing the same damn thing. It's a girl with an apple.
It is. Right. So like the thing is,
it's called kit bashing.
Right.
That's sakes.
Right. And so like to take the concern seriously, like I have an artist friend who's just like, look at like here's who said like here's a friend of mine who did this painting, and here's something that someone sent to her to say fuck you, I am an artist too, that are variations on her work in exactly her style. Okay, and I was just like, right. So this person is a douchebag who is stealing her style. I agree. This is not something that was created by Midjourney out of a million. It happened to do something exactly like her style,
and that's never been right.
This is someone who fed her work specifically into Midjourney, said bias towards this 100%, and replicated. That's copying. That's ripping it off. And that's what it is. I agree. Like if I turn out something called Hellboy that looks like Hellboy, then yeah, I'm ripping off Hellboy. That's what it is. But that's not what the machine does. That's what the person does with this machine. That's a totally different thing. Like I can do that in Photoshop. I can do that with canvases.
Are you trying to tell me that guns don't kill people, people kill people?
This is it. So here's the thing, right? Is that like because someone said this to me, it's just like, oh, so like it's like the it's like the gun argument, right? And I'm just like, no, because the purpose of a gun is to hurt people. That's what it's built to do. Like, that's what it's built to do. The purpose of an art tool is to make art. It's not to rip off artists. You can rip off artists with Photoshop. You shouldn't rip off artists with Photoshop, right? The responsibility is actually yours as an end user all the time. And that's been true since we've had scrapey bits on stone, right? And so, like, if you're using a tool and ripping someone off, you're a fucking ripoff artist. That's the case. And so like if you're using this tool and it spits out something that looks exactly like if I use Midjourney and it spits out something that looks like the Mona Lisa, right? Then I go, well, that's just the fucking Mona Lisa. I'm not going to use that, and I'm going to keep on iterating. If it spits out something that looks like something that looks exactly like something that somebody did, I can instantly figure this out by using Google reverse image search, which I do with my own paintings when I sell them, so I don't get fucking sued. Like, this is what I do with my art to make sure.
The two things. One is you're very heated.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yes.
I do, and I understand. And the other one was just, if you're heated, I'm fine with it. Just don't get heated to
the microphone.
Because you're clipping. Okay. But I understand this is a very hard argument. It is actually, to be honest, it's very hard to me to go onto social media now because it's just, this is I remember people getting pissed off about NFTs. That is a cakewalk compared to
this. Yeah, this is bad news. Well, like to sum up the core, the reason why I get heated is because what people like, I'm not angry at people for saying there are ethical issues. I'm agreeing that there are ethical issues. I'm saying
those ethical issues have been theirs for thousands of years.
Yes, that first, the very first thing we have to recognize is that this is in our control and always has been. And the moment we say it's not is the moment we lose control of it. And what they are generally arguing for is, I will never use AI. Well, then you're letting go control of something that can really hurt your business.
And it might be impossible to say that because if you use Photoshop and you run a Gaussian blur or Topaz Studio, you might be using AI without even knowing it.
You are, yeah.
You are using AI.
Yeah, you already are. So, like, I have a friend, and I won't.
But that's not their problem. They don't have a problem with any of those tools, which is the irony of it. The problem they have is them scraping their work.
A friend of mine said, "I would like. I'm not an artist. I'm a project manager. I would never use artists who use AI." I'm like, you already do.
You already do. So here's another one that I thought, this is another good argument. This was like Mark Simonetti when I was in THU, and his problem with AI was very interesting because Mark is a very well-known artist and he's got a lot of great work, but people use his name as a prompt.
Sure, right? Absolutely.
And it's shitty work. And so he says the problem is now my name, my brand is getting degraded by AI art.
That is a good argument.
That's because it's like, if you look,
but it's very hard to prove, though.
Yeah.
Well, he says it is, because it's like, if you look up Mark Simonetti, you get a picture of Lady Di and the
some
Queen
shitty ripoff,
boxing in a ring in his style, and it looks terrible.
So, like, trying to find legal ways where he can sell his style, if he can, or if he can opt out of, or like whatever it is, whatever it is.
It's the problem is style and subject are two different things, right?
Sure.
So his style is one thing, but the subject is another thing. And if someone is doing his style but in a subject that's shitty, right,
or
then it's a different problem.
Or in a style, if his style, but something that's controversial or expresses hate, that's bad.
Well, that was it.
Absolutely.
It was Lady Di and Queen Elizabeth boxing in a ring.
Right. I mean, this is like you see like the Obey poster, like what's his name? That guy who did or he did the Obama. The Obama design. Like, you've seen the Obama design repurposed for all sorts of racist shit. Also, like, this happens all the time. It's like, this is not like, none of this is a problem suddenly because of AI. It's because we have access to these tools and we can use them like this. So like the fact that AI makes it even faster and easier to do that kind of stuff is an issue. And I believe that this guy's saying like this degrades my business and my value because my name is on this thing, right? Like, if there's ways to try to get control of that, then that's what we should be aiming for. But we can't get control of it if we don't use it. Like, if you just say, I'm not going to be using this technology, well, everybody else is. And those people may not have any ethics problems. Like, you need to embrace this thing and get control of it. And if you're just like, oh no, stop the train, we got to talk about this. Train's not stopping. The train is not stopping. Like, get on the train and tell them to switch the tracks. That's something you can do.
What I also thought was interesting about Mark specifically is that, one, he was upset about that, but at the same time, he was doing all kinds of stuff looking into Midjourney because he's like, I got to figure out how this stuff works, understand it, even if he doesn't want to use it. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's his responsibility as an artist, because this is not something that is meant to compete with him. It's a tool that he's meant to use if he wants to use it.
That's what I'm doing.
Yes. And like I said to Eric before this, and Eric, because like if you gave Eric Shealy an AI to create art for a year, right? At the end of that year, I would be able to look at that art and say, that is an Eric Shealy style.
That Meets Myers. Meets Myers does exactly that. He trains it on his own art, and his art and his AI art looks like his art. Yes. Now, we should talk about our movie.
That's true. There's
at some point.
That's right.
We should talk about our movie. I do want to get to it. I was actually thinking about it and possibly having you guys both on CG Garage and talk about it there.
That'd be fun.
I don't know.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't know how well it'd be. People might get very upset.
I think what
I'm worried about people getting really upset on CG Garage. I don't care.
Honestly, I think the best thing to do, because like I said, I am 100% open to talking about the difficulties, right? But I'm still pro embracing AI because it will take over everything, and we have to know how to use it, like, to be responsible for ourselves. You are pro AI. You are pro AI. Like, if you're going to bring people onto CG Garage, you might want to have at least one voice that is anti-AI to make sure that it's not all of us agreeing together.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily, I don't disagree with what they have a problem with.
Absolutely.
But I think it is naive to just say, sue them, give me it's like, the example is like, it's like trying to take pee out of a pool. You're not going to do it.
This is it.
You can try.
You can remove the entire pool. Like, there's a great Rudy Rucker in one of his wetware ones, or whatever, which one it was.
Great novelist and your uncle.
he had a thing where the planet they had the intelligence, or the machines got too smart, and so they had the Asimov machines, which were like, they capped how smart they could be. just because
right.
because that was going to be a problem otherwise.
Yeah, it's true, right? Because
so all the really smart robots lived on the moon, and they had their own society, their own way of thinking, everything else.
All the dumb robots lived
and
here.
The dumb robots, they called them the Asimovs. I think
Asimovs.
They were hysterical. Like, it was really
hysterical.
Yeah, because they're like, no, it can't get too far,
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Okay.
But we were joking at the beginning of the podcast, like AI is going to take over podcasting soon. It will.
It will.
It absolutely.
It's already
will.
taken over websites.
Yeah.
And
like
the advertising agency is going to love this.
Yes,
because they can make so many advertisements.
Like imagine, like,
and
so
custom ones just
as
for
this
you.
is going to as this is going to consume everything that you love. Imagine what you would do if you had to be an artist and not get paid for it. Would you still be an artist? Is a real question you should ask yourself, because that's what's going to happen. That is what's going to happen ultimately for everybody.
It's there's so many ways to think about, like the cab drivers when Uber came around, or Uber drivers when self-driving comes around.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're going to have stuff. It's not going to be very long before we are reviewing on this podcast a movie that was rendered, written, and completely made by an AI.
Right.
Like, it's not. That's not very far off. Like, that's what's going to happen. And so the thing is that as that's coming to literally everything, not just arts, it's coming to everything.
Truck drivers.
It's going to change the economy into something we can't understand right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing to start when you talk about universal basic income, like, that is this is what it's going to have to be.
Star Trek,
like
Trek person.
Like, this is what it's going to have to be, because all of the shit that we actually do to have an economy is going to be handled by machines.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Right. You will be doing art and sharing it with people and making movies and sharing those with people and enjoying them. And you're not going to be paid for it. You're just going to do it because you love it, and you can do it, and it's instantaneous.
Right.
Like, is that good enough for you? I hope so, because
would art exist if nobody had to work?
If no one had to work, would you still be an artist? Yes, I guarantee.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. My God, yes, that's all I do with my life. Like, this is what I love. I'm not going to stop making something.
But you're still reaching for a market.
People don't do accounting as a hobby. They do art as a hobby.
Like, this is the thing.
Some people do accounting, love accounting.
Sure. Like this, but some people. I mean, people do math because they love math. Mm-hmm. Like that, but like it's like there's no invalid pursuit. Like, but if you want to be doing it because you want to be doing it, then you'll keep doing it. And when you talk about AI, like, if AI makes it possible for me to make a movie with the press of a button, then I'm going to keep on pressing the button and feeding information about the movie that I want to see until it becomes the movie that I want to see. It's still me making the movie I want to see. Like
the rat with the button and the
like, the thing is, like, here's the last thing I have to say about AI is this: if you gave Eric Shealy a computer with an AI program and Photoshop and everything else, but an AI program on it at the beginning of the day, and you picked some random dude out of Walmart and gave him the exact same computer with exactly the same setup, right? At the end of the day, you'd say, okay, guys, turn over your single image that you feel most confident in. Which do you think would have the better chance of making a beautiful, moving, complete work of art? Eric Shealy or the random dude in Walmart?
Yes,
random dude in Walmart.
Random. Clearly, because random. You don't know how random could be really good too.
It's true. Random could be really good. It's true. But here's an example. More than likely, Eric Shealy is going to be the one with the taste to know what is good, and he will pick the thing, construct the thing, paint on top of the thing, feedback the thing until he comes out with an image that at the end of the day I go, holy fuck, Eric, that's beautiful. And Walmart guy's gonna be like, it's a hot dog that looks like Cary Grant.
Yes.
and then you know what will happen? Eric will be accused of cheating because he photoshopped on top of it.
By the way, they should do that with Yoko Ono. Have her make a film before she passes. Like, somehow.
Okay,
complete AI film.
so let's get into
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah, it's a movie.
We've already gone 24 minutes. So normally
This is possessed us over the. If it's possessed the internet, first artists.
yeah, and we will
It's
probably
possessed
break out into more AI talk as well. But
okay, so let's start with this. Today I'm gonna have, when those in I think it's in Norway, they started the you sit in a sauna and then you run out and you jump through a hole in the ice to go swimming and you to experience the shock.
yes,
Today we're going to be talking about In the Mood for Love, and tonight I'm seeing Avatar 2.
right. So
That's my kickoff.
So wait, which one is the hot tub and which is the blast cold?
They're
Will you
whatever is
expose-
exposed.
Will you respond and tell us what you think when you get back?
No, I'm looking. I can't wait to see this movie. I can't wait to see it.
Will you
Are you
tell
seeing
us
it?
what you think?
Are you seeing it at a high frame rate?
I think I'm seeing it at HFR. Yeah, I believe I am. I don't have the ticket in front of me, but I am very, very excited to see this movie.
Stereo,
I have
I'm
been
assuming, or something like
yes.
that. Okay.
Yeah, and so it's optimum
Which
presentation. The one I think it's in not Glendora. Anyway, it's south. Can't remember the town. It's south of Glendora. Anyway, that's that one, whatever that is. And so a good theater, great sound, great picture, and universally, everyone I know who has seen this, there are two reviews. The people that went in saying, "I thought Avatar 1 was okay." It's not great, but it's okay. They love this movie. They're like, it's 100 times better than the original. This is great. And the ones who hated Avatar hate this one twice as much. So
whatever triggered them in one direction, it doubles up.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's just put this out. This was an Eric pick. We had a ton. We've had this massive list of things, of movies that we think about doing, that we sort of go around and discuss, and about 30% of the time we actually pick from the list. Most of the other times we actually just end up coming up with some other random movie that we want to do. But this one was been on the list for a long time. And as I threw it, Eric, and I said, "Eric, it's your pick. You tell me what you want to do." And so
but that's like asking like an old guy in a nursing home, "Do you want grape flavored or orange flavor?" I just was like, "Sure."
Yeah, it was pretty much.
You're standing in front of the television. Move aside.
Future reference, orange.
So yes, so you picked orange, clearly, and I had never seen the movie until now. I've heard of it. I've never seen it until now.
I didn't know that.
So it's very good. I'm glad to do it. It's absolutely gorgeous. That is its thing. I think that is its thing above everything.
It is.
It's stunning. It's a stunning piece of art.
Doyle.
It's incredible. Yeah.
There's two DPs.
Yeah, Doyle is
one of them, and then the other one. And so he also did Hero.
Yes, another beautiful film.
And 2048, I think it is.
2046, yeah.
2046?
No. Also by Wong Kar-wai.
Right.
No. Beautiful.
I have his box set here.
Yep.
Tarantino did the forward. It's his whole box set.
Oh yeah, Tarantino is for whatever people feel about Tarantino, he is very much responsible for exposing some of the greatest Asian filmmakers to United States audiences. Like he loves these guys' work, and he Chungking Express, I think, came out through Rolling Thunder. Yeah, he's the reason why we've seen these things, and why Wong Kar-wai hit it big over here, which is incredible because the guy's one of the best filmmakers of all time.
Yes.
I'm curious if you haven't seen it before, Chris.
Yes.
What you thought of it?
I thought it was fantastic. I kind of knew I would like it. Honestly,
it's one of those ones. I don't know if I've known anybody who watches this movie and goes, "Man, I guess so."
No, I could see people say that. I definitely know people who would say that because it's just slow.
Sure,
it's slow, and nothing happens. And there's some people who just want things to happen in movies, and
in fact, this is a movie specifically where things do not happen.
Things do not happen, right? Yes. Intentionally. And so, but to me, I was looking at it as a filmmaking experience as well, right? Like how he managed to shoot things in such tight spaces, and how he managed to make that space feel tight, but have so much inside the frame that could serve everything. So there was so much that was going on, and the beauty of it is lighting, etc. Her freaking dresses are insane.
Yeah, I loved her dresses.
46 of them they had for different scenes.
So the production design in this film, it's its own movie. Its own.
Her hair and makeup apparently took 5 hours every day to get done. Yeah.
This is Maggie Chung, by the way. If anyone is also a fan of Irma Vep, she is between these two movies.
She's so pretty.
She's like
such a great actress.
Yeah, she's up there with Ingrid Bergman for me. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is Wong Kar-wai said he was very influenced by Vertigo in making this movie, and you can see it in the color choices and the production design. Yeah. Super beautiful greens, reds.
I gotta imagine that every single shot was so intentional. I'll tell you what, it was a lot of escargot, but it wasn't too much.
It's just enough escargot.
There was stuff, you know what it is, and I think there was something that kept it rich, right? Mm-hmm. Like the story is complex, mm-hmm. Definitely complex, but they leave you so much room to emote mm-hmm. that the story is it just kind of works. You know what I mean?
Well, this is a great point, because I think that the mechanism of the film, in a sense, is that you are doing the feeling for them, right? The movie is they're not the ones who are showing you the feeling. You are feeling this because you're
what they created.
Guys, fucking go for it. Come on. And
right.
Isn't it just Remains of the Day, but with just really good food?
Exactly. I'm a huge fan of Remains of the Day as well.
I love Remains of the Day.
Yeah, brilliant movie. And it creates the same feeling where you're just it's this incredible ache that you have, and he sustains through the entire film. Yeah. And you have this, it's the kind of movie where the difference between this and Remains of the Day is that Remains of the Day, I think, crushes you with that ache. I mean, ultimately, it's just it puts you in the meat grinder, in the end of the movie. And in this, I don't feel crushed by it. I just feel sorrowful. It's like this profound, not just a sadness, but you're could this have ever worked? Is this the only way that this even comes close to happening? And it's so beautiful that there's such a sweetness in the beauty of it not happening that it's an argument for itself. It's really, really profound.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's very, very, very.
And
sweet.
You know what it is too? There are a couple things that this time really stuck out to me. Is yes, obviously she changed her outfits a lot, but it's a very smart choice to show the trans kind of how time, you played with time. It's based on the dresses.
Yeah.
So you never get confused because the space is so tight that you're oh, that's a new dress. And sometimes you're how did she afford that? But you know that he's traveling, her husband. Mm-hmm. And it just, that helped with time. And I think what helped with the situation is that the older generation was there every mm-hmm. night around them, playing traditional mahjong, and just the way it is that they always were kids being watched by their parents.
Yeah, that's a good point. Age. That's a really nice
and that was that's kind of the impulse is not to do that. It's I got to stick with tradition.
So I suppose we should describe this to people.
We should describe people where it is. So this 1962 Hong Kong. Is where it is,
which is important.
They shot that where, in Singapore?
No, so apparently they had to shoot it somewhere else because the Chinese government did not want them to do it without. No, I don't think they shot it in Singapore. Well, maybe it was. I don't know, but the Chinese government didn't want to have it permissions to do it without seeing a script, and apparently he works with no script.
He just sort of goes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And which is, and the thing is, like, this does not.
Bangkok.
Is in Bangkok. Yeah. Okay, there you go. So like because it's a Hong Kong set movie. It is very much about the Hong Kong China relationship, like because the 60s is when the Cultural Revolution was happening, and like the whole, like the difference between Hong Kong and China like really became pronounced. And so like many people read this movie as like this is actually a political movie about that relationship.
That's the old people.
Yeah. And so but it does it in such a careful way that China didn't, flip out about the content. And it's just a very caring movie. Like it's a very good-hearted movie that sort of wants things to heal in some way, but doesn't know what the answer is. And so like setting it in the 60s creates a particular world. Like as you guys are saying, like it's a very sort of like it's a very closely shot movie. All the frames are tight, like it's kind of a cramped movie, but it doesn't feel like panicky or claustrophobic or anything like this. And they have this amazing sense of, like Eric, you're saying, time and space in this film is so well detailed, and the environment is so real, and you feel the pressure, like what you're saying with the old folks playing mahjong, and all this kind of stuff, like that you're feeling like the movie feels like it's a much bigger topic than what you're seeing. So even if you're unaware of the politics of the movie, like it feels sort of epic. The movie feels epic, even though it's basically.
Oh, I bet you this film was shot for nothing.
Yeah, it's like in 5 or 6 different rooms and on the stairs in front of a noodle shop.
Yeah, and a garden hose for the water coming down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you get. That's where they get you.
So basically, it starts off in that area, and it's right. You start right off in this narrow, dingy hallway of an apartment, but it's dingy in a way that doesn't feel dirty, but just like old.
Yeah.
Old, right? And there was a little bit of a Rosemary's Baby, the Dakota feeling to it,
That's good. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So the story really is the guy goes up the stairs and he's looking they're renting rooms from these apartments. So they're renting a room outside of an apartment, which is interesting, right? And so this woman walks out, who's our heroine, right? She walks out, and the guy says, "Oh, I'm here for the room." It's like, "Oh, we already rented it to that woman."
To that woman who just left. Yeah,
who just left. Right. And says, "But why don't you look next door? I hear that they may be renting a room too. Is it just for you?" And he goes, "No, it's for me and my wife." Right. So he goes and he rents a room from the people next door. Then there's a claustrophobic moving scene. They happen to both be moving in at the same time, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing, because that really makes that's when you feel cramped, because they're trying to get all this furniture
and all this objects are being loaded into the wrong rooms. Right. Like, no, this isn't mine. That goes in Mr. Chow's place, and back and forth all the time. Yeah. And all their lives are being mixed up, like it's like shuffling cards, automatically. Everything is on top of each other.
So the people you meet are the people the older people who are in the houses, and the two of them, their spouses are not visible.
You never see their faces.
You never see their faces. So you only see them from behind.
Or they're trapped.
Or you hear their voices off screen. That's it. Which is very interesting as well.
Or on the phone.
Or on the phone, yeah. But they don't see their face. Never see.
And they don't sound like very interesting people.
No. And the only way that you recognize, one way that they help to make you recognize his wife is she's got that curly hair flippy thing.
Yeah, little bob. Yeah.
Little bob thing, right?
Her husband was, no one knows it, Kirk Douglas. It was Kirk Douglas.
He was filming Saturn III at the time.
Yeah.
And
this film came out in 2000, by the way.
Yeah, okay, so maybe not Saturn III. And maybe yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so and they keep on, like, these two characters keep on coming near each other or brushing by each other or whatever it is, because like the matriarch of the building, right, essentially has everybody over for dinner and mahjong and all this stuff constantly, and so everybody is up in everybody's business.
She's always trying to get her to have dinner with them and hang out, like very, very hospitable.
Yeah.
And she always says, "Oh, nope, sorry, I got to go to the airport. Oh, no, sorry, I got to work. Oh, I got
very prying though."
Yeah.
Right.
And like my husband's away, and and the other guy saying the same thing. Oh, my wife is away. She's actually with her sick mother, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so there's a lot of like but it's gossip being traded around all the time by everybody.
Yeah, but and by gossip, it's still unbelievably polite.
Oh yeah, it's not like trashy
and intrusive though. They're like,
but it's all very mixed up together, right?
Right.
And so these two, even though they see each other more and more in the beginning of the film, they're being very obviously like they don't want to create a reason to talk. Like they don't want people to assume that anything is happening.
Right.
And this is even before they get together. They're sort of like they're super polite with each other and they're very removed and like they try not to put themselves in framings or in situations that would suggest that they'd want to be together.
Right. I should couple notes though. Yes. So she is a secretary for a company and she works as a secretary. And her husband is always going to Tokyo on business.
Yes. Right. It's some trading company kind of something
right?
Right.
And the thing about Tokyo in 1962 apparently is that he brings back luxury goods or rice cookers, things like that. And they're like, oh, it's like, oh, it's my husband.
Amazing. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. All these wonderful things. So her husband is obviously resourceful in that way that he brings things back to Hong Kong that are special, right?
Like, I'm not even sure if what he's
handbags also like
it's like it's such weird things. You're like, is he involved in something illegal? Like it's something like there's
seems
some
that way, doesn't it?
It's never said. It's never said, but it's just
I don't think that's the case.
Like
I don't think that was implied even.
Like there's some sort of like he's involved in trade in some way, right? And
sure.
And there's obviously a lot of bonuses to this trade.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, I you guys remember as well as I do, but when in the 80s or late 70s, early 80s, and you had a friend of yours who would go on a business trip to Japan, they'd always come back with a bunch of electronic knickknack gadgets. I mean, that was a thing, right? Remember those Game & Watch games? Those were like people would import those from Japan.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was like all the weird, the special Casio watches with all those things on them.
Yeah, so this is what he's doing. I mean, like, and so people are constantly asking her to get him to bring stuff back,
right?
And
it was luxury stuff like handbags and rice cookers. Obviously, they were so excited about the rice cooker.
The rice cooker, yeah, it's great. Right.
But like, sitting by it, looking at it,
right? Like, isn't this incredible?
Which I can imagine in 1962 in Hong Kong.
The first time I saw a rice cooker was fucking amazing. I was like, "Are you kidding me? That was insane." So like, but you're like, that's so like, you never see him. He has influence over what is happening. He's a very present character, even though he's not there, right? Mm-hmm. And the same is true with Tony Leung's wife, where like she's just off the corner of the frame all the time, right? And what we come to slowly figure out, and
there was a fantastic scene, and they do this. They do these slow motion shots all the time. In the thing, beautiful slow motion shots. But the shot is that they were all there, and their two spouses are there, and one of them comes in. You see her from behind. She does a thing. Another, there's this interchange between man and woman, and you start to say, "Wait, hold on," and that's when you start to understand that maybe there was the blend between who is with who starts to.
It's a little weird,
confusing, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you, because it's just from behind that you see them as they're moving in and out of frame. Someone bringing a cigarette, holding their hands, and then you're
trying to track it, and it gets weird.
It gets weird, and then you start to. This becomes more important later when you realize that their two spouses maybe having an affair with each other.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, like, and so you get the, like, you think that the movie is leading you towards, like, they're going to embark on an affair. Like, that's the sense you get from the movie. And then the first turn is, oh no, their spouses are always screwing around. And then you're like, like you feel bad. You're like, oh man, like it's a weird, confusing bad, because you're like, I hope these people hook up even though they're married. And then the other two hook up, and you're like, those assholes. You're like, of course, I was rooting for the other guys.
Right. So, anyway, it sort of introduces this thing. Now, again, like I said, this movie is very slow, right? So it takes a long time before anything happens.
Yeah, before anything doesn't happen.
Before anything doesn't happen, right?
Exactly.
So as they're doing their, this continue to be themselves, and they barely, in the hallway in the beginning, they're barely acknowledging each other's presence at all.
Right. They're passing on the stairs because there's a noodle shop down at the bottom of the stairs.
She doesn't even say hi at times.
Yeah,
she doesn't even say hi.
Like, and you can feel this sort of tension of like, they're like, they obviously think each other are attractive. Like, and
they're both very attractive.
They're both incredibly attractive people, and so they pass each other on the stairs, and you're like, just fucking look at her. Just look at her. You asshole.
He does look at her.
And you see him like go.
And he tries to say hello. He says hello, and she doesn't even acknowledge him.
Right? Yeah, it's just like, odd. Yeah, and so like the movie really is great at, like, because it's so lush and close and tactile, and like everything about it is so sort of physical all the time with its visuals, that it creates this longing in you for something to happen.
Right.
All the time.
It's a love story without love.
Yeah, it's always, they're in the mood for love. They're not.
Yeah, but they're not showing. Yeah, exactly. It's a weird kind of tension that builds into everybody that's watching it.
Yes,
it's strange.
Yeah, it's really
well. It gets there's some stuff that I, like when I was first watching this and I was watching how it's going on. It's like, oh, I kind of know how this is going to go. It's it's really pretty, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like thinking that, and I was like, nope, I was wrong. Of course, and I'm always wrong. But especially, no, I'm not always wrong. I'm often right when I watch just regular films. But when
it's not like you're always wrong. You're just never correct.
Yeah, it's okay. Say it that way. Okay, right. But no, if this were a regular movie, it'd be very predictable.
There was some twists in here in terms of how they interact with each other that became fascinating and confusing, which I want to talk with you guys, because obviously this is fresh for me. So,
sure.
So it was very interesting. But when is the moment that they start to actually interact with each other? Oh, they go for dinner.
They're suddenly going to dinner.
They suddenly go to dinner.
They cut to this and he's like, I hope it's not strange that I'm asking you out. Right. And this scene starts.
Because she's always going out to the noodle shop, and that was another really great remark. It's like she has the little thermos that she puts the noodles in. That she goes to the noodle shop, and the woman it's just, oh, I'm just going to get some noodles, right? That's what it was. Okay, now I remember. I'm just going to get some noodles, and the landlord, she says, she gets noodles dressed like that.
It's so good, just like that. Okay,
and he asks her, is like, oh, it's like he asked her a question about, is it your husband home? She goes, I don't like to cook for myself when I'm by myself, or something like that, right? And so that's when he sort of gets inspired to ask her out. They're both very lonely, clearly.
Like one of the things, if you've ever seen the movie Tempopo? Tempopo is also amazing. Like,
you told me to watch that.
Tempopo is amazing, and you should see it immediately. It's also a Criterion. In Tampopo and in this Tampopo explicitly, but in this, like, the way they talk about food is very eroticized.
Sure.
And like that she's got this, like, and I don't want this to sound lewd, but like that she's got this the canister of noodles becomes like an object of desire in the movie. Like,
yeah, because, well, hold on. Especially when she's walking to get noodles, right?
Yes.
the shot of her, because she's got an absolute sensual figure, right?
Oh yeah, and they
and the dresses that are
he looks fucking fantastic. He's handsome as you can possibly get.
So
and
the thing about like her,
that you won't believe.
So the way her dress is fitted, it's like pencil dress, right? It's just, and so it's just, she's like a perfect hourglass, incredible.
I feel perfectly comfortable saying Maggie Chen is one of the most beautiful women that I've ever seen in film. Period.
Right. And so she's got this incredible, perfect balanced hips, right?
Right.
And then as she's walking down with her high heels to go get noodles, she's got a very slight sway to her in slow motion, right? And that
there's
sway,
the noodles.
that sway is emphasized by the noodle can that is swinging next to her hips at the same thing. It just gives you like this.
The presence of the noodles becomes the presence of like the steamy sexuality that's being contained with therein.
Big dumplings in there.
Yeah, this is it. It sounds dumb when you say it out loud, but it's true. It's absolutely true. It's very effective.
Duck.
Right. And when she says, like when she says things like, I don't like to cook for myself when I'm alone, like you're like, this girl better eat some noodles.
Oh, it's all with you. Oh, it's
she must really want some noodles.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there. You always go there.
But it's true. This is what's happening in the movie. This is what he's consciously doing in the movie. And it's so because unlike when I say it out loud, it sounds oafish and ridiculous. He doesn't say it out loud. This is a completely subtle, passive experience that's happening for you, but you can't say that it isn't in there, and it does layer into the tension that's building the film. Like the food is sexuality, and it is part of a growing erotic tension of the movie.
This is like the scene from 40-Year-Old Virgin when it's like, do you like to do it yourself?
Exactly. I mean, this is like you remember my 2001 video. I'm just like, this is about an elongated spaceship trying to dock with a spinning port, and this ends up in a baby. I think this is what the movie is about.
Yeah.
So, but this is what's happening in this film, and it's like this movie is a steamy, sexy, luscious experience where nothing like that happens on screen. So like he's using every trick in the book to cue up these ideas in the audience's mind without the characters themselves physically expressing any of it. And that's why it's such an effective and powerful sense of physical, like emotional and physical longing is tremendous in this movie.
Right.
And it's extraordinarily well done. I know it's like, say it out loud, like everyone has to, like we all giggle like we're fucking seventh graders in the back of the bus, but this is these are real feelings, and he's found technical ways to bring them up in the audience without them being explicit enough to feel awkward about.
Right.
And it's really brilliant.
Okay, so they decide not to have noodles by themselves, but to have noodles together.
They've got some noodles together.
Exactly. They have some noodles together. At which point there's an interesting conversation in space. And again, the dialogue in this thing is, I mean, I don't know. I don't speak Chinese. I don't know how they speak in China, right? But what is interesting is that it's very flat dialogue.
Yes.
It seems to me, right? Mm-hmm. Except for the crazy buddy of his who's hilarious.
Great character.
He's the best.
Ping is his name? I think it's Ping, right?
Yeah, I love the way he needs to borrow money. He borrows money and says, let's go out to dinner because they spend so much money at a whorehouse. I mean, this guy's like, he asks him for money because he spent too much at a whorehouse. And then as soon as he hands him the money, he's like, let's go to dinner.
I got $30.
Unbelievable. Honestly, this guy's got balls.
And that's actually another great tool, because like that guy is the sort of sexually explicit oaf. Who like,
well, they are so reserved, and they're so tightly wound. Like even her dress is so tight, right?
Yeah,
it's like a chastity belt practically.
Right.
And it's so tight. And then this guy is like, I don't know. If I have problems, I just go to the whorehouse. When I'm stressed, I go to the whorehouse.
But he also tells him that his wife's having an affair.
Did I lose Dan's audio?
What?
No, it's back.
Yeah, like that dude's like, no, you're like, don't worry, I get it on credit. He's like, you get it on credit? What the fuck is going on? So like is like like that character serves.
He's like Kramer.
He's like Kramer. He serves to introduce like direct sexuality as a topic, and also sort of like identify its lewdness in an embarrassing way. So you want to tamp it back down. You're like, don't fucking say that shit out loud, man. It's weird. But then, but it's now it's there. Like
Right.
it's now it's really present in the film, And so they have this like lascivious, fucking scummy jerk off, and he's just like, "Ugh," and he shows up and does that, and you're like, oh god, I'd never think about things like that, especially that with Maggie Chung in that incredible dress.
Well, I was gonna say,
incredible.
like the way they all speak, it's all very polite. It seems very polite. So, it also was interesting, and I don't know if this is true in Chinese in general, but when they're asking questions, it doesn't seem like they're asking a question. It just seems like statements.
Yes.
Right. Like the context is a question, but the actual sentence is not.
Right.
No, it's very true. Yeah.
So I don't know if asking a question in Chinese sounds like asking a question in English.
Yeah, I don't know.
But to me, it was interesting. But the other guy, his tone goes up and down and all over the place. Completely different dialogue. Like it sounds like he's speaking a different language completely.
Right.
And it was just he's definitely comedic and entertaining. That $30 scene, Eric, you're absolutely right.
Oh, it's like, Jesus. So good. Well, I mean, he's used in the same way that Shakespeare uses clown characters.
Sure.
Because like you want to bring those emotions in so that you know the parameters of the emotion of the movie. Right. Because if everybody in the movie is acting in this very, very limited way, then it's sort of that's the baseline, and you're not like then you're sort of subconsciously thinking, I suppose this is a world in which no one can express emotions. But here's this dude who comes in and goes, sure you can. You can actually act like this if you want to. You can be completely loud and
so you make sure to make you realize that the world, it's not the entire world that's this way. It's just these people.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, which is a very good point. Yorick was his name in this change in Hamlet. Yorick. Right?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's it's actually it's what do you call it? Orson Welles plays him in Chimes at Midnight. He's the big fucking clowny oaf, and he says serious things that are very, very important. But if you said them out loud in any other character's voice, it would be too much. And so he comes in and is too much, and then says things.
Right.
And it's like I really movies like this are fantastic in that it really makes you appreciate what makes a great filmmaker is that this is actually an extremely technical event that's happening. This movie is incredibly crafted, like from the ground.
Oh, you can tell everything is so specifically done.
Yeah, like this is not like a loosey goosey event. Mm-hmm. He may be changing it as he goes, not using a script, but this is locked down as to what it is saying. Like, and he's extremely
5 hours to do the hair and makeup.
Yeah, like he knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, he's also very smart. And this is obviously a trick that a lot of DPs do in this area, and it's not an uncommon trick, but they do it extremely well, especially in the tight spaces. Is to use mirrors as ways of showing other places and other things that are going on within the same frame, right? Yep. So like he shows her in this direction and then she's looking off screen, but you see him as a mirror from the off screen back,
Oh God. I know the shot you're talking about. It's one of the best shots.
Yeah. They do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, and like what's wonderful in that is like I believe the shot you're talking about is when he's sitting down to write and the camera sort of dollies over, trucks over, and then it includes a mirror of him writing
while she's eating.
Well, she's eating. And it literally becomes like in a cartoon, a thought bubble.
Yeah,
like because he's still doing his thing. He's not really paying attention, but you are seeing what she is feeling and thinking when looking at him.
Right,
like it's in this sort of little frame and idolizing him in a way, and it's just insane the way these and these are all like I said, these are all technical feats that are perfectly designed to hit very specific emotions and crank it up just a little bit in very certain ways.
Yeah,
it was really insane, really insane.
Yeah, definitely just the right amount of escargot.
Yeah, 100%. So like the main mechanism of the center of the movie, we should say, is that they instead of they kick off an affair, right? what they
No. Hold on. So they're in the restaurant, right? And at the restaurant, they have a conversation. He asks her where she got her purse, and then she says, "My husband finds them in different places." And then he says, your wife has the same purse. Where did she get it? And it's like, she got it from someone. I don't know. And then she asks about his tie. She goes, my wife gave it to me. Where did she get it? She got it from some person she doesn't know who travels. And then it's like, my husband has the same tie. And then they start to realize, like, okay.
What are they doing?
So I didn't want to. She says, I haven't said it out loud to anyone yet, but I think my husband is having an affair with your wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was so. I love how they unpeeled that onion in a way.
Yeah.
Like.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just got excited to talk about it. Go ahead. Sorry.
But that's the best part of the film is the way they just sleuthed it together like that.
And the way the camera attacks it too, because it's like the camera will like starts in darkness and then slides into a side shot of Tony Leung. The conversation continues, and then she's like they get closer to understanding or closer to saying it out loud, and they talk, and then she's like, what exactly are you saying? Right. And the camera resets and goes, what? And comes out again, only faster. And you're like, oh shit.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and there's many sequences where the scene sort of resets itself and they go a little deeper. Right. But like the idea that they enter into is essentially they are role playing each other's spouses. Right. And that they are.
This was the stranger part to this.
Yes. Right.
So they do this in a very weird way because I can't quite figure out what they're trying to do. Right.
It takes a minute to figure out what's happening. Right.
So at first I'm doing like, are they going through a scene twice where this is what I wish happened?
Right.
Or and then they do it again where this is what actually happened.
Right.
Kind of like what I'm just to use another example. Remember in High Fidelity when he keeps imagining beating the guy up, and they just do that scene 3 or 4 times until he beats him up completely. But what he actually did was nothing.
Tim Robbins is so good. I'm in anger management. Let me handle this.
Another class.
Patchouli smoking faggot.
It's so good. So
he's got the ponytail like Steven Seagal.
God.
God.
But yeah, so the first thing you assume is like because they literally play through a scene where the dialogue is sort of weird. You're like the context of the dialogue is sort of strange.
And she gets upset at him.
Right.
And then they seem to do it again.
They do the scene again, and it's slightly different. And you're and that's so that makes sense. Like you're just like, okay, so this is what actually happened, right? But what they're really doing is they're redoing the scene themselves. Like it's a meta event almost.
Yeah.
Like they're redirecting the scene. They're like, how do you think this happened? But
what's interesting is they seem to want to make sure that they see each other. They have that another dining scene that's very important, right?
Yep.
And in the dining scene, what they do is she's eating, and he's forcing her to be his wife, right? So he puts hot sauce on her plate and he says, "My wife likes hot sauce,"
right?
And so they're role playing each other's mouths. And I'm just like, okay, why are they role playing? It's like, I want you to be, hold on just a second, guys.
Mm-hmm. When they got into that argument when they were at dinner, I think for the 3rd time, and they had that argument where she said, AI is essentially taking away creative directors' jobs. And he's like, no, we have to embrace the future.
World. Right.
That was a tense moment.
That's true. It's still unresolved today.
Okay. Sorry, guys. So she says he wants her to be his wife. And it's almost as if she is my wife, then it's okay for me to be with her.
Yes, absolutely.
And then she makes him like, it's like, my husband would say it this way.
And my husband would order this.
My husband would order this, right?
They're like, what would you order Like, what would you order versus what would my husband would order, and what your wife would order. I'll order what your wife will order,
Right.
and then we'll role play this out, right? And that's what happens. This is the centerpiece of the movie, is like their relationship is essentially a role playing event,
Right.
Where they are,
but I couldn't quite figure out, are they doing it because they want something to happen?
Or is it courtship?
Is it courtship?
Well, right. Is it
courtship, or is it because also they do another role play where she confronts her husband, and it seems like she's actually confronting her husband, and then he turns around and it's him.
It's him.
Right.
Yes. Exactly.
Where she's like, "Tell me, be honest with me, are you having an affair?" And he's like, no, you're crazy. And they go through this whole thing.
Yes.
And then finally says, yes, I'm having an affair. And she slaps him. And then like, nope, reset. That wasn't right. Like, and they do the whole thing over again. But now her emotions are very different.
Yeah. And this is where the movie is like no other movie of its kind, because they are both trying to understand why their actual spouses left or did this. Right.
Right.
And by doing it, they are also.
Do you think? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, like that. They're also experiencing that connection, that same connection.
But do you think because they're very secretive and worried that the elders will judge them, and it's just that it's almost like tradition. They're afraid because of tradition to expose it, talk about it. So they, in private, are just kind of going over everything that's in their mind about it, because they're around this kind of traditional Chinese group.
Yeah, because this gives them a sort of a space that they can try to understand what has happened to them, as well as explore what they are feeling. That they feel like it's like they're kind of getting away with it in some way emotionally, like but as long as they're doing this, then they're not really cheating, right? They're trying to figure out why their spouses cheated. But
they are lonely.
Yeah, but in fact, they're falling in love with each other. And
right.
the beautiful part about it is, because they are role playing their spouses, they don't actually know the other at all. Like, so they're falling in love with someone without fully being able to understand that other person really.
Well, but they do have, they both have a passion for martial art books.
The martial arts, yes, because this is what he's writing. Go ahead.
Right. So it's martial art book seems to be like a kind of a Pulp Fiction type book thing, right? And so he works for the press. He's a journalist or something like that, right? I think. And so he's always wanted to write martial arts books. She loves martial arts books. And so
this is the centerpiece of their real reality.
There's two things that bring them together that they love. Food, noodles.
They love those noodles, man.
Love those noodles.
Who doesn't like a nice steaming can of noodles?
and martial arts books, right? And so then when they're actually happy together, like that scene, he is writing the martial arts book.
Yes,
and she's
which is another
noodles.
Physical event, by the way. Exactly. Yes, like he's just.
And the two of them are happy and smiling.
Yes,
they're not role playing each other. They're being themselves.
This isn't a sex scene. He's just writing about physically grappling with someone, and she's sensually experiencing this delicious meal.
Yeah, I should note that there is not even any kissing in this.
There's no kissing in the movie.
There's nothing. There's no nudity. Nothing.
Zero.
There's crying and there's some hugging, and that's about as much as you get.
And believe me, that is fucking steamy by the time you get there. That's the brilliance of the movie.
Caliente.
That is the brilliance of this movie. It puts you in this fucking emotional vice and tightens the vice.
It also just really brings down their loneliness and their disappointment. Like, I can't believe this is happening, right? Like her life is a disappointment in a lot of ways. She's very upset about it. And so that's something that comes up, quite a bit. And it's sad, and then she pushes him away more than he pursues her more than she accepts.
True.
Yeah.
Right. And so that becomes a big part of it, because in the end, he's the one who sort of says, I'm in love with you, but you're never going to leave your husband.
Right.
Right. Which is a big thing that happens. But yeah, there's a lot of these back and forth modes. The exchange that they have is amazing. Now, there is a long scene in there where she's trapped in his room, which was it. And so he is always like considerate of her, and she's super cautious, as you mentioned, Eric, about the elder people finding out that they're together, right? When they're in a cab together, she makes them get out early so that it doesn't look like they arrived together, right? And then there was another thing that they did. She's trapped in the rain. He goes to get her an umbrella to walk her back. It's like, we can't walk back together. And it's like, well, why don't you take the umbrella? It's like, then they'll know it's your umbrella. Where did I get it? I'll just wait here. It's just she is super cautious about it. And it's very like, this is like, her is like, oh, I want to be with you, but there's all these conditions that are making it very challenging, right, for me to be with you, right? In attachment theory, it's called avoidant, right? So she's very much in the avoidant camp, right? She wants all these things, but no, right? So it's very, very sad.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and it adds to the ache.
Sad.
It's all about the ache.
The loaning.
Yes, exactly.
And then at one point they are together in his room eating noodles.
and writing a fucking karate book.
Karate book.
It's like in Barton Fink when the investigators are like, did you guys have some sort of sick sex thing? And Barton's like, what? We were men. We wrestled.
Forgot. That's such a great movie.
So he where was I? All right. So but the neighbors, like obviously they were the neighbors are out, or the older people are out. They came back early because one of the guys got really drunk at dinner and they had to come home.
Carry him out.
And he's like, oh, embarrassing. Oh, that's so embarrassing.
Another thing that sets the level of like, don't embarrass yourself. Oh my God, look at this guy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's obviously just totally shit-faced, which is hilarious.
Drunk halfway through dinner.
Yep. How embarrassing. And then
wait till the end of the dinner to be drunk.
Like a normal person. And so then they're trapped, and he's like, oh, he can get out of the room, but she's got to stay in there. And he's like, how do I get out of this? And then they're like, oh, don't worry, they'll be gone. And then suddenly it's like, no, they're going to start a mahjong game. And they're like, it was like, oh, they'll be playing mahjong all night. They'll like
until morning.
Just a couple of, they'll just do 8 games or whatever, 8 rounds.
Bullshit.
It was like, and so they're like, nope, they're playing mahjong the whole time. And
look in the morning, like they're not actually done. They're just like, oh no, it's still going on, but he has to go to work. Good God.
Yeah. And so that's the problem. So she's still trapped in there, but then finally they find a way to get her out. And there's a very interesting, like they're falling asleep in the room, but he's in the chair, she's in the bed kind of situation. Very, very amazing shots of that, by the way. It's like, just all this tension. And then finally she leaves.
It's also very tight.
Very
like
tight.
Dan was talking about earlier. It's just like uncomfortable. Like he's just squeezed like you're in an airplane bathroom.
Yeah. And then she does she finally leaves, and then when she gets to the other apartment, which is right next door, they're like, oh, it's like, you were out, I didn't hear you come in. It's like, oh, I went to have breakfast with my mother. So all these lies, right? She's constantly covering up what's going on. But yeah, it was very, very, very interesting. All right, so where does this lead us from here?
All right, yeah. So what's the next plot point was? I'll have to dig this up. The good thing. Hang on, because like at some point, like we're gonna jump into the future. Essentially, like it comes to a.
Right. But that's when he goes to Singapore. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. You guys look it up. I'll be right back.
Yep. Sorry, I lost that.
He does go to Singapore, though.
Yeah, because that's the next big. Oh, thank you very much. This food just came in. Thank you. Yeah, because like the movie, kind of like it builds to a point where like it builds to it's the hotel room, right? And where
he gets a room to write.
Yes, right. So he gets the room to write in, right? And so like this, so it essentially builds up to this moment where like it doesn't tell the audience whether or not something happened. Like it's like the tension of it is like it comes to this point where you're like, we built it up, and then it backs away enough from telling the story to go, wait, did that go off or what happened? Right. Mm-hmm. And they leave it alone. I was just saying that it essentially builds up to this idea of like, did they sleep together or not is the question. Like there's that there.
Are you talking about the hotel scene?
The hotel scene, right?
Yeah.
And like
she seems to go up the stairs, down the stairs.
Yeah.
And he's in there.
Right. So
but then she knocks the door.
Mm-hmm. But then she stops in the hallway.
Yes. And it's because her heel comes up and you're like,
that's right.
Wait.
What does that mean?
What is that the turnaround? What happens? Right. And so like it leaves this very, very unclear moment for the audience. Right. And before moving on with the last third of the movie. And because like essentially to wrap it up, like nothing can happen between them as long as they're in this apartment complex together. Like that's the fact of it. But
it's like a vampire in a church.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is not going to work out. Mm-hmm. That said, the movie now is going to move into a phase of torturing you anyway.
Right.
By saying, now let's look at all the times where they could have hooked up after this.
Right.
And failed to do so.
Right.
Why is that? Why is she not? What is she clinging on to?
Yeah, her successful husband with his purses.
Yes,
that he brings back from Japan.
Yeah,
I think it absolutely. Look at all those dresses. She's always 2 to 9s.
Yeah, like I mean, they maybe
that's what she's holding on to.
Right,
it doesn't say very much about her. Though.
Well, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't say anything bad either. I think it's saying like there's like she has a life, and the thing is that she doesn't really know Tony Leung. She doesn't really know him. Like this is a moment in time. And a thing that maybe almost kind of happened, but like, what's she supposed to do? Just like fucking drop everything? Like that's the question the movie's trying to prompt. My answer is yes.
Especially if you're a Chinese woman in 1962, it's much more challenging to leave your successful husband.
Yeah, I mean, like this is a real it's a I think it's a perfectly valid argument to say like that is it's a big fucking ask. It's not like the husband is represented as some like hideous douchebag. Like, yes, he cheated on her for sure, but also she at least came very close to cheating on him. She's living an empty life, but she's going to leave all of this to go be with a guy that she sort of fantasized about as her husband anyway. Like that's what I think she'd be thinking. Like it's not worth it. It's a moment, right. And we'll never actually have that. And so like, I don't agree with her. Like, I think they should be together. I think she should take the leap. But it's a perfectly reasonable thing to have not done. It's just a very painful thing to have not done. Because like they see each other in Singapore, right? And
no, they don't.
Oh no, I'm sorry, they miss each other. Yes,
go.
And then the apartment scene when he goes back to see he goes and it's just like, so where'd the couple go, and look at all the history of what happened to the apartment afterwards, right? And they're like, oh yeah, no, she's no, the woman living down there is living with her son, blah 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 blah. And you're like, wait, like he thinks he's lost everything. He thinks there's no chance. And of course, there was a chance right there that he doesn't exploit. This is the way of the movie. It's meant to beat the shit out of you.
Right. So essentially, there's a couple things that happen. One is the guy who goes to see all the the prostitutes, ends up leaving to go to Singapore to do something there, right? And so he has to go to Singapore as well. He has an opportunity to go to Singapore.
Right.
He has obviously had a falling out with him and his actual wife. Problematic, didn't work out. They're fighting. She's staying with his mother or her mother or whatever. So that's the whole thing, right? So that's happening. She's still pretending that there's something going on with her husband, and she doesn't confront her husband. In fact, that's probably what it is, right? She tries to confront her husband about cheating, and she just can't.
She doesn't do it. Yeah, exactly.
She can't. That's the whole. Now I understand that scene better. She just doesn't want to do it. She's sad by the fact that this is something she doesn't have I think she doesn't have the courage to do it, and that's what makes her sad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly so.
So it's really, really interesting.
I mean, she's a tragic character. She's an absolutely.
She's definitely a tragic. Well, they're both tragic characters for sure. It's a very Romeo and Juliet situation.
There's a meekness about him too that is so frustrating.
Right.
Like he just won't. Like, it reminded me of Remains of the Day.
Yep.
Just not.
I mean, the ending scene of Remains of the Day, when she's
on the trolley,
and waving, and you're just like, oh my God. Just like, this is the moment you need to run after that trolley. This is the moment you do that. In any other good American film, this is what happens. But it's not
really sad film.
Yeah, there's a trolley and there's people on the trolley. Now you just change tracks, or do you know what's the philosophy?
Oh exactly, right. Exactly. Kill them all.
Kill them all. By the way, did you guys see that Trump is selling a whole bunch of NFTs?
No.
Yes. As superhero characters.
So brilliant.
Yes.
No.
So beautiful.
Yes. Him in like a cowboy outfit on the throwing a football that says 45 on it.
That's so pathetic.
Yeah, he's like Trump trading cards. This is the big announcement he made the other day.
Trump trading. I like, at this point I start to wonder, like,
he's
are
insane.
is this part of the play? Because they know they can't resell him. They just like, okay, we got to package him as ridiculously as possible so we can switch over to the other Fruit Loop as soon as we can.
No. I honestly think he's just like, people are like, he's losing money left and right. So it's like, how else can we make money? How about trading cards?
That's
right?
Disturbed.
And people are buying them.
Dude. Like, what else is left to be said?
To go into the mind of the person that buys a Trump trading NFT. Unbelievable.
We should have our own trading card.
Yeah, but that would be fine because it's hilarious and stupid and goofy.
Yeah, because we're the president
of the fucking United States.
Exactly.
He isn't. He was.
He was.
Unbelievable. Anyway.
Yes, and I was just watching the CNN interview with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi at a Chinese noodle shop in D.C. having an interview with CNN. They were eating Peking duck and eating dumplings, hot steamy dumplings. Mm-hmm. But Nancy and Chuck were pretty hilarious talking to each other. And at one point, one of the reporters says, "You think that there's something wrong with Trump? That there's a problem with him?" So the reporter, he goes, "I think there's definitely something. He's not all right in the head, and I feel really bad for him, and I think the family needs to have some kind of an intervention."
Good for you. Yes.
Nancy just right outside is like, you can't say those ton of things as a sane person.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like,
it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to having all these stupid debates again over DeSantis. It's going to be the same thing. Second verse, same as the first.
Yeah.
Like
What am I thinking of? Meet the old boss, same as a new boss, or new boss, same as the old boss. What's that song?
The
Who. Thank you.
Bob O'Reilly.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Same as the old
the
boss.
New Trump, same as the old Trump.
Yep.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
In any case,
back to noodles.
The movie crushes your soul.
Crushes your soul. So he ends up telling her he wants to go to Singapore, and he realizes that she'll never be with him.
Yes.
Just because she'll never leave her husband.
Yeah,
so he goes to Singapore, and it's a crushingly sad scene. Very sad. And then there's some kind of exchange, and this is confusing. So you'll have to figure out, maybe, it was lost in translation or something, but I think he tells her he has an extra ticket if she wants to come with him, right? Or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
And she doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next scene is in Singapore, and he goes to his apartment or his room. I guess they're always renting rooms. They're always living somewhere else. And he goes, "Where have you been to my room? Something's missing."
Yeah, that confused me, that scene.
Okay, so he was looking for something, right? And something's missing, and he's upset about it. And he's scrambling around. It's like, what's missing, says the guy. And he just doesn't say anything. And he looks around, and he sees a cigarette there with lipstick on it.
Right.
Right. At which point, then you cut to another scene of her saying she got a ticket to Singapore or something. She got an extra ticket to Singapore or something like that. Right. Mm-hmm. At which point you see her in his apartment. So you realize this is what happened. So it's a flashback sequence in a sense. Right. So she was in his apartment, and she was staying there, experiencing it. She smoked a cigarette. She doesn't smoke, by the way.
Right.
Right. And so she was just sort of experiencing what it would be like being with him, in a sense. Right. So it was her trying to be with him if she could do it.
Yes.
Right. And she decided no and left before he got back. My guess. Is that right?
That is my read of that scene. Yes.
That's great.
The fact, and we should also note that normally that would be very simple to explain that story, but it was done in a confusing way that we were questioning whether what happened, what's reality and what's not reality.
Yes. Which is intentional.
Which is intentional as well.
Right.
Because the whole time is like, is this a role play? Because even in the role plays, it's like, is it imagination or is it role play?
Yeah.
Right.
Is this actually?
This also felt like it was him imagining, and it could have been him imagining her by seeing the lipstick on the cigarette.
This is what's playing out in his mind.
In his mind is that she was here and she did this and she did that. Right. Which is also kind of a fascinating.
But it leaves this for you. It's not going to spell this out, because like spelling it out just makes it into facts. But as opposed to
this
writing it out is the emotions.
This film is like you said, relies on some confusion.
Yeah.
To and you're being drawn to these characters to have all these emotional feelings. So it's really trying to get you to have feelings more than try to figure out.
Absolutely. Because
what's going on here?
Right. Because what is he feeling?
Because in a sequel, what's going to happen in a sequel is that Luke Skywalker is going to show up.
Exactly. Like the movie realizes that I said this about other movies. So like the one who's doing the feeling is you. That's what's happening. And so the movie is leveraging that. It's saying, like, we're not going to tell you what people are feeling inside.
Right.
What you are feeling inside is what you are projecting onto them. And that is both the action of the movie, and it's what the people in the movie are doing.
Right. And they do several other interesting things in a film. I just want to go back to that, like in terms of the filming. So they go into these slow motion montages several times, which are very, like, might as well be like an unbelievable music video scenario, right?
Yeah.
And it's got
with the music and
the step frame look, like all this stuff.
Now the step frame was the second thing. I was going to bring that up as it's actually a second thing, but there's a slow motion, like very smooth slow motion, right? Probably shot about, either at 60 or 120 FPS or something of that nature, right? So it's like, no, it's probably about 60, but it's like,
right.
And the music is right on pace with that to make that work, right? And they use that same sound. So when that music starts, you know that another slow motion scene is going to happen. It's going to montage you into this is their casual meeting down the seedy steps to the noodle shop. This is their this to that, all of these different things that are happening. But then they also have those step frame stuff, right? So step frame, I believe, is you just shoot the same frame twice. So it's like,
yeah, exactly. So like essentially
it's a 12 frame per second.
Yeah, they're removing frames and replacing those frames with copies of the
previous frame.
Of the previous frame.
Right.
Double printing frames.
Right. And it creates these very unusual look to it. And you're like, that was strange, right?
Yeah, you're getting a lot of motion blur, even though it's only 12 frames a second. Yeah,
right.
It's a strange look.
It is a strange look. And then they also have these slow-mo things that you don't know if they're slow motion or not, but they make it look like slow motion with the cigarette smoke going up through the lights.
And I just got upon it.
They had her walk slowly at some of that. Just
the shot of her walking away down the hallway where she slows to a stop. Yeah, I always watch that. I'm like, is that slow motion? Are we entering slow motion to the point where it's almost a freeze frame? Because the very next shot is slow motion, right? Or is she
just slowing down?
Is she slowing down and stopping and making a decision? And it's brilliant. And the fact that I don't know is fantastic.
Well, the thing and you're talking about the hotel they're meeting, right?
Yeah, the hotel, right?
So the hotel is that the hotel is a very specific. So their hall of their house is extremely narrow and yellow, and the paint is peeling on the side of the walls.
This one was red, right?
This one is door. There's doors on the right side and these red curtains on the left, right? And that moment where you wonder if they had sex or not is when the curtains are blowing.
Yeah, because no, I'm gonna step in and be the oaf. If anyone doesn't understand what red curtains symbolize, welcome to film. red curtains blowing open from a gust of wind.
Yeah.
Is symbolic.
Yeah. Very specific. Exactly. Yes. I did catch on of that. Obviously, I'm not that naive, but anyway.
I think that if someone was, I don't know, like if you're watching a coming of age movie, and in the coming of age movie, someone were to watch this sequence, they would just simply explode. They're like, "Oh my god!" Yeah, that's when it happens, ladies and gentlemen. That's when you become an adult in this movie. Is when the curtains blow open.
So the curtains blow open. But yeah, and anyway, okay. So, but that was in the hotel scene. That was in previous things. So now, so basically, the Singapore thing is, he's there in Singapore. She might have come by. She reminds him of her. Right. He also tells a great story to his buddy in Singapore about secrets.
Yes, this is the killer of the movie. And it's weird they knock the bow so late in the movie, but because you're going to fire it almost immediately.
Right.
He basically tells the story of like like in what is it, like it's monks. You walk up a mountain and you can whisper your greatest.
If you have a fear. Or a secret you need to tell, you never told anyone, and you need to get it out. You go up to something, you carve a small hole into a tree.
Notch into a tree.
You whisper your secret into the notch of the tree.
Right.
And then you cover it with mud. And now your secret is done and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
You don't have to, it's out of your heart.
It's out of your heart. And then the guy says, I just go get late.
Yeah, good for you. I just go get. Yeah, exactly.
It's a stupid idea.
Yeah, it's so good.
But he tells that story, right?
The come around on that is going to happen.
So so to him, it's like he has this burden because he was reminded of her, right? Which then leads him to go to Hong Kong the next year, I guess, or whatever. And he goes there to the old apartment. Now we also know that there's been political turmoil in what's wrong?
Sorry, the thing that just occurred to me, I'll say it when we get to it. Sorry, just a thought popped in my mind and made me laugh. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Goes to Hong Kong to the old apartment. We found out that there's been a lot of political turmoil. Actually, we've been hinting at the fact that there's been political issues in Hong Kong. But there's a lot of people are like, oh yeah, we got to get out of here. It's like it's not doing so great. So the old apartment, the two apartments are not quite the same. Different people have moved. Right. So she's in the apartment. That's where we start with her visiting the woman, and she goes, "Oh my God, you got to stay. We haven't seen you in so long." But they're all packing things up, so they're leaving.
Yeah, because when families moved to like Singapore and whatever it is, right.
So they're leaving, but she still is having conversations with them, etc., and connecting with them in some ways. And then he comes by to visit, right? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, right. I believe so. Yeah,
yes.
Right. And then he knocks, and then someone else is living in that apartment, right? Something else. Oh, he's got a gift under his. He's got a gift.
But she comes in and she asks about something and somebody living there and how long they lived there, and she started crying.
Right.
The Coos.
The Coos left.
No, somebody was there. Was it her husband who remarried?
No. She.
Well, what was made her cry, Dan?
When she's in the hall, she's in the street.
She goes back to visit. She goes into the apartment, and the older woman's packing or doing something, and she's leaning against the door frame. And she said, "Oh no, the new house is filled. It's the."
Oh right.
And then she said, "Oh," and she starts to realize something.
And she cries about it, but she doesn't want to turn around to let her know that she's crying because
she realized that she didn't get a Martini Giant T-shirt
in the merch
time
store
for Christmas.
In time for Christmas, right?
Yep, yeah, that's true. But you can still get them.
You
can still get them. You're just going to have to get them next year.
If she just accepted the fact that she can get it by Christmas, she could still get one. It's only a couple of days later.
That's true.
Yeah, go to www.martinigiant.com and click on store.
Go to the Threadless account.
Yeah. Look, or just martinigiant.threadless.com if you want to do that.
We're not trying to push our stuff.
And there's also mugs. She could have gotten mugs.
Mugs.
There's a notebook.
And that's what she says.
Notebook.
What she really needs is she needs a martini.
Happiness comes from a true mug.
She needs a Martini Giant shower curtain to hide her shame.
Yeah, exactly. To cry over the fact that her husband's cheating on her. That would have been a perfect scene right there.
or the like tears in the rain.
Exactly.
Bath mat.
That'd be perfect. Yes, but like
just ideas, guys. That's all we're saying. It's just ideas.
So she doesn't get the Martini Giant bath mat, and she realizes that old life is gone. Like this is now like everything is lost.
Everything is lost.
Right.
And he shows up right almost at the same. They almost miss each other by
it's a mirror of the opening. Right.
And so he comes up and he finds out that she was there, or she has a kid or whatever. Like she has a kid now.
She's a kid.
And I believe she has a kid with her original husband, or at least that's what I implied.
Yep.
She's
still with her husband.
So.
Yeah, still with her husband.
Right. So he also comes to realization that like this has come to an end.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And he has to give it up and give up the thoughts of that. So then he goes to Cambodia.
Right. Years later.
Right. There's a thing with Charles de Gaulle explaining that whole political turmoil.
And this is exactly. So this is where the movie really tells you that this is actually a political allegory. Right.
Okay.
And because it really points out like the Vietnam War is happening. The Charles de Gaulle has, and it just sort of like inserts this very strongly, right? And so you have him at what's it called, Angkor Wat, I think it's called.
Okay,
yeah, and then something like that,
right?
It was
yeah. Going. And so like this, which is an utterly beautiful, ancient monastery, in Cambodia. And this is their last meeting, right? Is the talk that they have with the handshake, which is like something I wish I could unwatch because it's so horrible to watch. It's like, cool, well, see ya. Like it's like this dialogue is like this has to be in the movie, and it needs to be in the movie as part of the point of the movie,
right?
But it is the it is the most painful part of the entire film, is that instead of sort of suddenly grappling each other and running off down the stone steps together, they shake hands and say, "Take it easy."
You know, it'd be great is if they grappled each other, ran down the steps, and got onto a bus. And then we would do this with The Graduate.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello, sadness, my old friend. I come to be with you again.
I mean, it's happening in basically the same year. Like you'd actually do that. So like it's just like you have them on the bus, and then the camera like goes swish over to the back of the bus, and there's Dustin Hoffman.
Like we should have paired this with The Graduate. That actually would have been a pretty good pairing.
Huh? That would have been genius. Yeah,
that would have been genius if we paired this with The Graduate. Hell, man, we still have an hour and a half. We can pretend we did. The Graduate.
That's the thing, dude. It's like even in this most peaceful place, right? War is still on the horizon. Tensions are, like you're never going to escape the world, even in this, like in like literally the most peaceful place in the world.
Right.
And because of that, they're yet again not going to be together in one last sort of, on the verge of heaven kind of moment.
Right.
And instead, he
finds a small hole.
Finds a small hole.
A small hole.
Whispers into it.
Puts his mouth into the small hole.
Yep.
Whispers into it. And stuffs it full of mud. That's the end.
And that's the end of the movie. He lets it all go. Yeah. So like the thing that made me laugh is, for whatever reason, I was thinking of another movie in which someone cheats on their spouse, which is A Serious Man by the Coen brothers. Right.
Uh-huh.
And how the Serious Man main character, his wife cheats on him for what's his, it's like Cy Abelman, right? For Cy Abelman, who's this like sort of fat bearded pretentious old moron, right? And there's a scene where the main character is having a dream where Cy Abelman, he confronts like Cy Abelman just grabs him and starts beating his head against this blackboard and says, "I fucked your wife, Larry, I fucked your wife," right? And so what I laughed at was like, when you have it like at the end of the movie, they shake hands, she gets back to her husband. And he walks up and goes and finds the little hole, and, like reaches and whispers into it, "I fucked your wife."
That's funny.
That's what over at the end.
I blew her red curtains wide
open. That's it, man. That's it. But it's an amazingly sad, beautiful. I mean, they have to take it to like it's fantastic. It's like the movie keeps on going like, okay, it's a few years later, and every time, like any regular, American movie, I'd be like, a few years later, like they do it's a few years later, and you can see they have separate lives and they've reached happiness, or it's a few years later and they see each other. And they go for it. They realize they shouldn't have, whatever it is. And this is like, it's a few years later, and no. And it's a few years later after that, still no. Like they're just like, forget it. This is literally an ache that will not stop, and the only one who's going to let it go is you. And it's I'm
going to look for something. Movie. It reminds me of a movie I saw, and I really love it. And I'm going to let me find it, and I'll send it to everybody.
So it's interesting. While you're doing that, I'll tell you a little weird side story. So apparently Wong Kar-wai found the English title of this movie while listening to a song by Brian Ferry on a CD of the similar title, "I'm in the Mood for Love," right? Which was a cover of a 1935 song by Jimmy McHughes. And Dorothy Fields. I remember In the Mood for Love as an episode of Frasier where he's getting pranked by the DJs. They, remember back in the 90s when DJs used to do pranks on people all the time, right? Prank
call
calls,
people up, whatever. Yeah. Right.
And so he's getting pranked by the DJ, and he was they had but the DJ pretends to be the construction worker downstairs, and they sing, well, we're doing the acoustic tile here, we need some help. And it's like, we heard you were singing, could you mind singing again so we can see where the leak is a little bit? And so he's in the bathtub singing, I'm in a mood for love, simply for being near me. And so, and so he's singing that song. So when I was thinking about this film, I was like, I got to do this in the mood for love. And Karen and I were like, I'm in a mood for love.
It's amazing.
How many times can we somehow make Frasier be a reference?
Frasier is the core of the show.
I'm sorry.
It's the fourth leg of the table of the show. We have
it is a little bit. Although I got to say, recently we've been on, the show that's in the background all the time now has been Schitt's Creek. It's constant.
Oh, that's a funny show.
That's a great show. It's a great show.
Eugene Levy's son,
David
son.
Levy.
Fucking hysterical.
He's really good. Yeah. He's really good. And Catherine O'Hara, her vocabulary is hilarious.
Yeah.
There's actually some amazing YouTubes of her talking with subtitles of what the actual, the simplified word is,
so funny.
A turtle.
A turtle. Yeah.
Because she uses some very elaborate word for turtle, but it's just a turtle.
Yeah, no, that's hysterical. I can see that show bleeding into Martini Giant dialogue more often.
Yeah,
if we want to swap out Frasier just for reference's sake,
just
to give it
Schitt's Creek would be a good one.
Yeah, I'm on the horse now.
But it was interesting. They've been a comedy duo for so long, Catherine O'Hara and Eugene, right? Because they were in obviously in all the Christopher Guest stuff. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Best in Show.
My favorite being Best in Show.
Waiting for Guffman. Yeah. And also, what's the Mighty Wind?
Mighty Wind. Yeah.
He was a strange character in A Mighty Wind.
Yeah.
He was such a strange character in that show.
This is the movie, Waiting for Guffman. But this is the movie that I love this movie, and I totally forgot its name. But I actually remember some of the places in Brentwood. It is basically about two neighbors that have an affair.
Interesting.
It is such a great film. I've seen it a few times.
So the movie is, just so people are on the audio.
I sent a link to
it's
everybody.
Called, I understand, but people are listening to this in their car. Strangers When We Met, and it is with Kirk Douglas and Kim Novak, also Ernie Kovacs and Barbara Rush.
I've never seen this one.
That looks awesome film. I've seen it about 3 times. And over the years, and it makes me weep. I don't know why. And that the apartment for him, his friend is an illustrator, and he has an apartment which is at this apartment complex on Vine, which wasn't far from where I used to live. And so every time I pass it, I would think of all the scenes in there. And it's really cool. It takes place in Brentwood and in Brentwood Canyon. And it's such a cool film. It's literally, they basically fall in love and they meet at the bus stop, dropping their kids off at school.
Right. No. Yeah,
it's a good one. And it reminds me a lot when I was watching, it's like, God, what's that Kirk Douglas movie I always see?
I love Kim Novak. Kim Novak was she's famous for Vertigo, but she's in so many other good things, and she's such a good actor. That I wish that she was more broadly known. But she's completely awesome. Kirk Douglas is obviously great, but I've never ever seen that one. That's a great one. That sounds great. But yeah, no. So, what is your overall on In the Mood for Love, Chris? You're the one who had not seen it.
I loved it. It. I'm so glad I saw it. I was very excited about it. I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was. As a movie I knew of, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, I am definitely one of the people that's like, I haven't seen everything, but I know a lot of it. But I'm excited to see it. And it's part of one of the reasons I was like, this is a great excuse to have to see it for the podcast, right? Because there's so many movies that you may never got around to seeing. And you're like, oh, I should really see that movie, and then so now it's like, nope, we're going to do it for this movie.
Yeah, well, guys, this is on Sight and Sound's top 100 movies ever made, this kind of stuff. But I think there's definitely it's a good thing to point out. It's hard for me to think of when I think of the classic lists of movies that like the IMDb or the 100 movies to see before you die or whatever it is, all the best of top lists. I'm pretty sure I've seen those movies. I've seen
a lot of those. I've seen that list recently. It was actually a coworker of mine. You know him, David Tracy.
Yeah.
He said, I was like, oh, then the list has changed. Because it always had Citizen Kane at the top or whatever.
Oh yeah, it's actually Jean Doman is now.
It's that Belgian film, right?
Yeah, that's a great movie. That's a really great movie, and it caused a little controversy because it wasn't even on the list at all before, and usually things are slowly creep their way up the list, and then like Vertigo was like top 20, top 10, and it crept up on Citizen Kane and finally took the top spot for a while. But Jean Doman wasn't even on the list, and I think that's largely because
it replaced Citizen Kane.
And it replaced Vertigo replaces
the number one film,
and then Jean Doman replaced Vertigo, and Jean Doman is a legit great film. It's a very, very important, excellent movie.
65 or something.
It's actually, I think it's mid 70s, late 70s.
What number was Convoy?
That's I think 3,900. But the director's cut is 12.
Domino Principles come up from 12,333 to 12,331, and it's chipping its way.
That's two. They went up 2 spots, man.
They went up 2 spots.
Yeah, there it is. And suddenly one day, pop.
Candy Bergen's petitioning hard, and she's a champion of this stuff.
Yeah, she's going to turn that corner.
I don't want
She's going to start selling some Candy Bergen NFTs to try to raise money.
That's true.
Okay. So
you remember that story I told you? She did that to my brother. I don't want to meet them.
Yes. I don't want to meet those people
at a funeral. It's like, thanks.
How embarrassed would I be?
Yeah, I know.
Thanks.
I met with our good friend Donna yesterday, and she tells the best stories of celebrities, which I would never share publicly. I'm not going to share anything here. But she tells some of the best stories, and just the way she puts it into context and matter of fact is hilarious.
Yeah, because celebrities are not only people, but often they're kind of ridiculous people.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that. It's just, actually most often it's her stories completely humanize them, not as being ridiculous, but just as this is you're like, oh, this person is hilarious and wonderful. And I've always wanted to be that, as opposed to being this mythical. Because when you see how people are portraying celebrities on TMZ or whatever the hell it is, it portrays them as angry people because they know that they're going to get more clicks that way. But when you have these sort of matter-of-fact stories that you hear from someone like her, it's just
regular people.
It just puts a smile on your face. It's great.
It's true.
It's really great.
It's like everyone. It's like we know either we've gotten to work with famous people once or twice, or we know people that have worked with them. It's like all the stories I've heard about Tom Cruise from everyone I know who's worked with Tom Cruise is like, this guy's a ridiculously clear-minded professional and loves film. Like,
I will say this, because this is something I think she would be okay with me saying. She and I had this conversation specifically about Tom Cruise, and she goes, "I would take a bullet for him."
Yeah, I mean,
what she said, right? Yeah, he's like, he is so professional, so good to Hollywood that he really, really loves this industry. He's like, I don't care about any of the other stuff that goes on in his life.
Yeah,
but like in terms of him being an actor,
but
him being an actor and him being a Hollywood personality and the importance of what that does on set, on sets more specifically, shit gets done on a Tom Cruise film.
Exactly. And there's, you make a movie, it's a lot of shit to get done. That's the way it is. I think that's it's like it's all fascinating, because like the image of, like, there's the image of Hollywood, there's the trash stories told about Hollywood, and then when you get here, it's just work.
Yeah, it's just like office gossip.
It's just actually work. It's a job. Like,
it's a job.
That's basically.
There was another thing that came into my head, and I was thinking about it because this movie, like, it's so well shot. It's like, are they going to have some tasteful love scenes?
Yeah,
something different, right? It's consensual, right? The most you get is like
the handshake.
Dan Thron talking about noodles. That's about as close.
Exactly. That's much lustier than the movie gets. I tell you.
Right. Yeah. Him talking about the noodles.
We're gonna get demonetized on YouTube for what I said.
You thinking about the noodles in the back of your head, saying, "I think that's sexy," is really the reality of it. But that's about as much as it gets. Just looking at a thermos swinging is the most sexual thing you have.
That's
swinging,
right?
Swinging thermos.
So, but I was thinking about, I was like, what if this was a French film? I was thinking about that in my mind, and I was like, this would be so heavy as a French film.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and they could use the same plot, same idea, same everything, right? But they could make this. Imagine if this was a French film, right? And so I thought about it, and there was a movie I saw. It's not that great a movie, but I enjoyed it when I watched it when I was much younger, and I was a huge Sophie Marceau person. You remember, Sophie Marceau, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I had a thing for her as a Frenchman when I went to French school, and my French culture background, as our good friend Bernie would know. But anyway, so she did a movie called Fanfan, or Fan, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, I remember the title now. I did not see it.
It's a very strange movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you think if the way I'm going to describe it, it's a love story, but the way I'm going to describe it, you can go, that's fucked up. Okay.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
So it's a guy who's in love with her, right? Mm-hmm. And he wants to be with her, but he can't. So this is what's reminding me of what's going on and paralleling it with In the Mood for Love. Okay. So he wants to be with her, but he can't, et cetera, right? So he rents the apartment next door to her while she's away. Mm-hmm. And installs. There's her apartment also was a dance studio, so it's got this giant mirror. So he swaps out the giant mirror for a two-way mirror.
Yeah, that sounds French. Sounds French.
So that he can pretend that they're living together.
Nice.
Through this mirror.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And their bathtubs are next to each other, like through the mirror.
Right. That's very French.
That's French. It's so creepy if you think about it.
We should cover that film. We should put that film, do that film on the podcast.
Okay.
Hey, we already did.
It's not. I'm telling you, it's not that good. She's very pretty.
Yeah, well, I imagine, but I like the. It's like what we did. We did. It's get out your handkerchiefs. We did, right?
Oh God. Oh. You know what's on Canopy?
What's that?
Being going places.
Oh, going places on Canopy. Oh,
okay, so if you want to get out your handkerchiefs to the next level, mm-hmm. I'm gonna recommend that one. Mm-hmm. I'm almost sure. I'm gonna double check that.
That's spectacular. That's great.
Eric, when did you first see this film? Eric, you're muted. You're muted, Eric. You muted yourself.
Which one? The French one you're talking about?
No. Yeah, I don't think you've seen that one. Well, I wouldn't expect you to see that one. In the Mood for Love. When did you see it?
I think I saw it when it came out in Hollywood.
Okay.
Like right around there. Most of the stuff. And then and the stuff in New York, I knew is stuff from living in New York, and then when I moved here, so I always followed the stuff.
Were you were a fan of because he had made a number of great movies.
And
Chungking Express and Happy Together. And
Happy Together.
Yeah.
So
which
are
fucking awesome. Great movies, incredible movies. And
because a lot of the people when I was at grad school and just in New York at that time, everyone loved his stuff.
Well, was he a commercial director?
I don't know if he was a commercial director, but I know I actually have one of my good friends who we all actually used to drive trucks together in the early 90s in New York for directors, worked with Doyle as an AD.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because I know that Wong Kar-wai did has done a number of beautiful commercials and music video kinds of things.
Yeah.
But like this, I remember feeling that this was a distinctly different movie than his other movies. Like Chungking Express is very like it's sort of shitty video, like lots of crazy handheld. It's a much different experience.
It is much different, and it's I saw 2046 too in the theaters when it came out. I didn't like that. I
liked it, but it's like that's one that 2046 was like the Casino to Goodfellas.
That's what it is. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like it's a good movie, but it's so like you have this thing, and you're like, well, this is the fucking exactly. But we super recommend. There's a bunch of last I checked, there's a ton of Wong Kar-wai on Criterion, and that absolutely worth digging into that guy. Like I don't know why he's not as famous as he once was. Like, but in the 2000s, like this was the film to see. Like this was the art film to see. Yeah. I had the Criterion DVD, the special double disc, et cetera, and they have all that on Criterion right now. They have all the extras for that are viewable, and it's all worth. You can spend like all day long watching in the mood for love stuff on Criterion. I totally recommend all of it. But yeah, I also recommend like definitely do Happy Together. Happy Together is amazing. Chungking Express is amazing. And what's the other big
Not
one?
Happiness, right?
Not Happiness. I don't think you fucking find Happiness.
I don't think.
Can you find Happiness anywhere?
Put that on Canopy. See if Happiness is on Canopy.
Okay. So Going Places is not on Canopy, but it is for rent now. It wasn't even for rent for a while because Going Places is pretty shocking. I'll tell you that. So let's see. Happiness.
Happiness is the kind of movie that if it were released today, there would be a major Kickstarter to get that guy arrested.
Yeah, no, they would try to send lobbyists to GoFundMe to make sure that moving a movie like that would be illegal.
Yeah, that if you saw the movie, you should you should have your mind wiped. Mm-hmm. That it's a
1998. Let me see. Like to use. Okay, Just Watch is usually what I like to use. Not available anyway.
0%. Yeah, that's it. If you get the chance to see,
literally, Michael Stipe produced it.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
I'm almost. Can we check?
I'll check. Produce Happiness. Produce Happiness, because that movie is terrific.
Happiness.
It's a terrific movie.
Yeah, and it's got Philip Seymour Hoffman, Dylan Baker.
So who produced it?
Jane Addams, who is also in Frasier.
Yeah, it's Jane Addams is in it.
Yeah.
Yep. No, like the cast is great. The stories are great.
Todd Solondz.
Yeah, Todd Solondz directed it. And he did Welcome to the Dollhouse. He's done a lot of things that are similarly upsetting, but nothing like Happiness. John Lovett's, great bit from John Lovett's. It's sort of like
let me just put a Magnolia style. All right. Happiness is available on YouTube for free. Someone just uploaded the whole fucking movie.
Oh shit!
Watch Happiness. Okay. Gazzara. Yeah, terrific.
All right, I'll just tell you this: when I saw it in theaters, the whole thing's available.
Oh my god! Everybody who's watching this now, please go watch Happiness.
Big warning, and
trigger warnings galore.
But there was when I went to the movie theater to see Happiness. There was a sign at the booth or at the what's the music playing now? Who's playing music? Oh, I'm playing music. Okay.
Beautiful.
It was the sign said no refunds after 15 minutes.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt.
By the way, there is, I swear, when I saw the film, it said Michael Stipe produced it.
No, I know that he has produced movies. I didn't know which ones he's done.
And I was like, oh my God. But the thing is, in the credits for special effects, there's only one person. Dan, what was the special effect? Happiness.
Oh, I know what that is. Yes. It's a special effect of a very viscous quality.
Yes.
At the end of the movie?
It's a very viscous.
In the beginning, in the middle.
Oh, in the middle. Oh, the Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It's when he hot glues the postcard to the wall.
him having a conversation. Oh, Molly Shannon is in it.
Molly Shannon. The whole movie's fucking great. It's in the same vein as like Magnolia, right? It's a bunch of interconnected stories.
It was those movies were popular at that time.
Mm-hmm. Popular indie movie framework, and it's not that it's graphic per se, but just the subject matter.
The subject matter
so unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like we may as well cut to the chase on one of them. Dylan Baker in an absolutely tremendous performance. Like it's the home run performance. And it's like
he is a psychiatrist,
and
people come to for help. One of his patients is Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is an absolutely disturbingly horrible
vile person. Yes,
vile sexual deviant.
Right, but Dylan Baker is a pedophile, and the story that follows Dylan Baker is a very
story.
Sad, sympathetic vision of this character's life and how what the pain that he's going through as a pedophile because
while being married and having
teenage kids.
It was strange.
Fucking horrifying
his car.
And extremely sad and so beautifully done that it will upset you that you empathize with them. And that's a very upsetting thing for people to even hear, that they would make a movie like this. But this is a guy, I have to say, this is the kind of movie that you should expose yourself to, because it's a major emotional challenge. And it makes you grow as a person.
People don't want that. People don't want that, Dan. What they want black and white definition of good and bad. This is what I have a problem with. So, okay, I'm going to go through this. When I was at THU, they were doing an exercise about writing stories or whatever it was, and they were talking about heroes and villains, right? And they went through this whole exercise. It's like, why are we still talking about heroes and villains? Who is the hero and villain in Easy Rider? I just kind of literally stood up and yelled at the whole and this is the guy, by the way, this was the guy who directed and wrote Inside Out at Pixar, right?
What?
Right. Yeah. I kind of like yelled. It's like, why are we still doing this bullshit of heroes and villains? And when heroes and villains isn't enough, we make superheroes and supervillains.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And so the fact is that you need to be able to understand that the world isn't black and white, that there's all these weird shades of gray, and you have to understand them. And even understanding, how does someone like that become like that, right? And how does someone like that with those feelings deal with those feelings?
Yeah, to be clear, this is 0% a pro-pedophilia movie.
No,
wouldn't it be great?
No,
like not at all. It is
completely struggling with this thing, and in top of that, he is a psychiatrist. He deals with people who are dealing with this and tries to help them, but he can't even help himself. From his own issues, and it's very, very sad, very weird. And I'm not pro any of this. And I'm not trying to do this, but
it is upsetting. It's disgusting. It's awful. And what will really affect you is that it's also heartbreaking. Right. And that's very important.
And it makes you feel sympathy for a person like that, which is very hard to deal with. And people don't want that. They don't want sympathy. They want to be angry at people.
Yes.
Being angry at people is much easier.
It is safer to be angry. It makes you feel safer to be angry because, because it's terrible. It is.
Because anger is the response. You don't have to come back with how did this come about, what must be done, or any other question. It's like, I'm angry. That's it.
Right, and you shut it off. So like the
same. This is going back to our freaking AI conversation.
Might loop around. I'm hoping so.
It's going back to our AI. It's like, no, I'm angry. I'm angry.
I asked a question earlier.
ArtStation is bullshit. Sorry. Go ahead. Ask your question.
No, it's fine. I'm not throwing cheap shots at you.
I love you. Go ahead.
Why is it that when I moved from New York to here, to LA, and not here, I moved again, but the point is, why is it that in that time span, you can't make a movie like that? I don't understand what happened in the 2000s.
Oh, I do know. I can tell you exactly what happened. I know what happened. Can I answer the question then? 9/11 happened.
9/11 happened. 9/11 happened.
9/11 happened.
Which made
we needed heroes and villains.
Yes.
Yeah, we needed heroes and villains.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happened. And so when you can't do those types of things anymore, you can't make the gray films. You have to make them black and white again.
Yeah. Like this is because people feel unsafe. This is the worst feeling to admit into yourself is lack of safety. Like that's this is what we're suffering from right now.
In fact, that's a really good thing. If you look at the films just before 9/11, Magnolia, Happiness,
super challenging films,
right?
Real challenging
all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. Real art. Yeah.
What's fascinating to me is this is how we dealt with 9/11, but it's not how we dealt with Vietnam. With Vietnam, we had a completely different reaction.
Yeah,
right?
like we are very
because we were the bad guys. Because we were the bad guys at Vietnam.
No, because it wasn't on our street or in our block. It was somewhere else.
Right. But our people in the United States were questioning us ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that's why they made
Vietnam
these films.
became a self-reflective war, right? Because I mean, I think there's something to be said for the fact that we looked at Vietnam as our tragedy as opposed to we killed millions of people, but still we were very self-reflective, right? And so the art that came out of it was what the fuck went wrong with us. We didn't trust, after 73, we didn't trust our government anymore. We didn't trust ourselves anymore. And we were making movies that really explored that. And that went on for quite some time. And it became an indie film. It became a tradition. Like that was your responsibility as an independent artist.
But after 9/11 happened, it's like, no, we said like, these guys are horrible people. Look at what they did to us. Right. We are the victims. They're the villains. Right. And that's what we want to do.
And this is the lens through which we view everything now. Everything. Like, like for instance, 50% of America, most people quite earnestly believe that 50% of...
I lost your audio for a second. Wait.
He's still with us, though.
Yeah, no, you're still with us. No, I don't hear you. Hopefully it'll come back. Nope. Let me see. Maybe it's on this side of things. Do you still hear him? Okay. You muted yourself. You hit the mute button by accident. Did you? Okay, no. Why don't you quit and come back? Sorry about that, guys. Quit and come back. And we left off when you said 50% of America. So we'll be back to that. So, Eric, what do you think happened? Do you believe that 9/11 was the cause of it? Because we've talked about this before.
Yeah, it definitely was the cause, because all of a sudden the government just created a lot of problems we have now too, about just transparency. Most people just, trust the government, rely on the government to do everything, and they've just taken over everything. And we're coddled. And that goes to our intellectual dialogue. It goes to culture, everything. And it's destroyed us. Yeah. From the inside.
And I'm much more of a fan of when things are ambiguous and we question ourselves, as opposed to I'm right and you're wrong, which is what we want to do now.
Yeah, there's no turning back on that. It's kind of ridiculous.
I don't know if there's no turning back. We need to have a shift that makes us question ourselves.
There is no shift coming.
You don't think there's a shift coming?
Nope. No.
Well, what will we need for a shift to happen? I got you there.
A shift to happen would be to.
Can you talk, Dan? Nope, still don't hear you. Hold on a second.
Did you kick it with your feet, the plug to your mic? Do you want to check under the desk?
Can I say something now? No. Okay, hold on. I think I'm hearing something. Say something?
Ash, where are you?
Try now. Yeah, okay. I hear something.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, you're using your headphones now, right? Nope. I got it. You're working now. All right. Yep, it's all good at this point. So we are good, but stay tuned. Sorry about that, everyone. I'm putting him back into the feed now. Hold on a second. Let me make sure you're back in the feed. Okay, you're back in. Go ahead and say something.
So what's awesome is that for the entire time I turned into a picture of Maggie Chung.
You did. You did.
Which is
okay.
lovely. I've always wanted to be a
So your
child.
last point you were making, you said 50% of Americans.
Yeah. So so the idea is that like the super brief form of it is that with 9/11 we were infected with extremism. Like the extremists who attacked us infected us with extremism, and that's became political extremism immediately over George Bush versus the left. And which has then became, Obama versus the right, and now has become the left versus Trump, and with each step has gotten more and more arch. And now, because it's the only way we know how to talk on social media, we speak only in extremes.
Right.
And so
when AI art comes about,
it's
only the same tone.
The only like the thing is that the thing that happened to us on 9/11 that has remained completely undealt with, and we have never stopped to process this, and that's why it comes out in all of our major art forms, like say 12 years of fucking superhero movies blowing up buildings, is that we feel tremendously unsafe all the time. And so out of that, now once we don't have terrorists to fear anymore, we feel safe versus each other. Like unsafe versus each other. And so if someone disagrees, they're no longer safe. And you need to be in a safe place apart from them. And when you are searching only to be safe, then you are going to back yourself into a very deep, dark corner because the whole world is unsafe.
Right.
And that's where we're at right now. The only response that people have is fear.
That's xenophobia.
Exactly. I mean, it's only now it's applied to literally everything we see. And so, because like the thing is that when you fear something, the easiest way to deal with fear, that when you fear being unsafe, the easiest way to feel safe again is to turn that fear into anger, because anger is simply fear that is empowered. Sure. And so you turn all the fear you're feeling, the lack of safety, and you direct it into rage.
We've said this on the podcast before, but exact example is that like the Joker, the fact that people were so outraged over the Joker
because we're afraid. Right? We're afraid of each other.
By the way, including the person that we know on social media that's so outraged over AI, he was outraged over the Joker and was like, "Never, this should be banned from theaters."
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, that same person was saying that. Yes.
Well, and
it's just it's the Joker, for God's sake. Did you ever see Taxi Driver?
It's a slightly darker superhero film, and people fucking like. Oh, I forgot what it was. No Film School, one of these websites. Yeah. Like I wrote to them, I'm like, this is the most ridiculous review I've ever read, and you should be deeply ashamed that you wrote this. And like, which was they had written a review saying you should not see this, and I was like, how little do you trust people?
Really?
How little do you trust people? What's the use of art if you're going to tell people, I don't trust that you won't kill me if you see this? Like, are you fucking insane? Like, how? Like, what kind of madness is this that we fear each other that deeply?
Who is the artist? Eric will know this. The artist who did all the photography with the dead bodies.
Oh yeah. I can't remember
where? Which dead bodies? What year?
Is gonna be, I want to say 80s, 90s.
Witkin? Joel Peter Witkin?
Yes, Joel Peter Witkin.
Yeah.
Damn, did I not know that?
You did. That I knew exactly. That's the guy. Like
I actually knew somebody.
And no one could be an artist like that today.
Oh yeah.
Joel Peter was from upstate New York, but
and this like
they would think he was freaking Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, and the thing is like this used to be the domain of the religious right. It's just like, oh my God, like Mapplethorpe showing like bullwhips in someone's butt. Like we have to fucking he's from Satan.
Show at the Whitney in 1988.
And Mapplethorpe is one of the greatest photographers America has ever seen.
Oh.
Like he's just an unbelievable artist.
I'm thinking of another film along these lines that we were talking about, The Notebook. Remember The Notebook?
Oh yes, The Notebook. Yes, the classic with the gauze. My most profound man crush, Ryan Gosling. But yeah, no, this is like, that's the thing, dude. It's like I really feel like that's the space we're in right now, and it's I think that it's hard not to be terrified, because the more terrified people are, the more arch they act, the more extremist they become, the more frightened I get, and the easier it is to become.
I was not The Notebook that I'm thinking of. I was like, that's not right. That's not Ryan Gosling. It's the Pillow Book.
Oh, the Pillow Book, of course. Well, that goes without saying. Another from the director of The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover.
Love it.
Yes.
Greenaway?
Yeah.
But it was Greenaway. But that was 1996, and that's at the same years as all of this shit was happening.
This is the
right?
fucking craziness they were doing. It's
this
great.
Crazy thing that was happening. That's like the Notebook.
Because shit like this, really, like shit like this makes you confront
Vivian Wu
yourself,
and, Ewan McGregor,
yeah. Movies like that make you confront yourself and how you deal with real, actual inner feelings, and it's good for you. It's healthy for you to do that. And we avoid that at all costs right now. Like it's really, really bad. This really shocked me. I couldn't believe this was true. Is that there's a movie that is on Hulu right now, which, and this, by the way, before this comes off as some sort of like man's rights statement, this is not that, because I think that fucking stuff that's about as fucking idiotic as I've ever heard. But there was a movie that was on Hulu that gave a warning that came up that said for violence, sexual content, scenes of, like whatever, smoking, blah, blah, and an unlikable female protagonist.
What?
What?
And I was like,
that's the warning?
That was the warning. And I was like, you are warning me that a main character might be unlikable? Like, let me introduce you to A Clockwork Orange. Good God. Like, what the fuck is that?
It's so sad.
Like, I'm just like, what is this trying to protect me from? Like, that what are they worried I'm going to do? Like, that if I don't see someone that's purely heroic, what's going to happen? I was absolutely shocked. I was like, you gotta be like, that's like a weird art piece in itself.
What is wrong with us?
Yeah.
That's
like
not
that,
me, man.
that frame.
No, I know it's definitely.
I am definitely not in that category
I think when people talk about being woke, I think they're kind of asleep.
Well, this is okay. Like that's to get into that a little bit. Like,
I hate to say that.
I am.
They are not exposing themselves to some of the amazing things that are out there.
Right. So before we are completely canceled for all this stuff, like I am as left wing as it gets.
Am I.
I am super pro LGBTQ, super pro trans, super like pro choice. Democrat through and through. I'm actually a Noam Chomsky, or narco-socialist type. Yeah, so that's where I come from.
Sure.
Socially progressive in literally every possible way.
Yep.
And so I 100% actively believe this and vote that way. That being said, like terms like woke have become useless because everybody means something else by it.
Yes.
Right. And so when you hear the right complain about people being woke, what they are saying, what they are actually
about being right.
What they're complaining about is what they're actually saying is people that like pretentious assholes who are trying to control what I think about everything, shame everybody for everything all the time, even though they're hypocritically doing the same thing themselves. Like that's what they're actually saying when they say woke. When people who think of woke as being positive, what they are saying is inclusion, progressiveness, goodness towards other people, and kindness. And so when the right makes fun of woke, what people who think of woke as being positive here is that the right is against being good and kind and and loving towards one another. Like that's because the words don't mean the same thing anymore. Right. So it's become a completely useless term. Everyone should stop using it. It's dead. It is a dead statement. Right. Like what you should say is like when you say like I'm like,
and the same thing should be said with cancel culture because it's ridiculous to think about.
Yeah, fucking everybody.
Everyone's canceling
cancels.
Everyone else.
Everybody cancels. They just don't like to be called cancel when they do it. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Yeah, it's like I always say. Like people who will say, that's like people like whatever. Like something comes up and someone says. Well, if cancel culture really were a thing, then Louis C.K. wouldn't have a career anymore. And what they're saying by that is, I wish that cancel culture was real so you could cancel Louis C.K. So you do believe in cancel culture. You just wish it were more effective.
Like, I wish you would cancel the people you want to cancel.
Yes, exactly. This is how everybody feels all the time. Because
it was funny.
I wish I could cancel Trump.
I was at a I was at a fly fishing event, right? And my buddy Al, my mentor Al, had in his backpack had these pheasant feathers, which you can sort of see here, right? So I had these pheasant feathers, and I was like, "Huh, cool." And I said, "Oh, those are pheasant feathers." He says, "I don't use pheasant feathers. You want them?" I said, "Sure, I'll take them." And so he gave me these feathers, and then I was like, "Well, where do I put them?" And I started to put them in the back of my hat, like this.
Oh yes, and doing the classic ancient Disney. And socially inappropriate racist
my buddy Andy looked at me and says, and you're canceled.
You're canceled. Right. Exactly. It's just like
and I would laugh. Of course I didn't do it, but I laughed. I was like, that is so funny. It's like just the act of even doing that would be like,
that's crazy.
Sure. Yeah. And the thing is, like, man, behind all that stuff, and because that obviously can be quite racist.
And he was being funny too about it, but obviously you're telling me don't do that.
Well, this is the thing. It's like
might as well have my fly open at that point.
like there's it's like if you watch like Blazing Saddles, for instance. Like Blazing Saddles is one of the most anti-racist movies.
Oh actively, yeah, but people would be very offended by that movie,
right? Because people fail to they're not looking at the intent; they're just looking at a checklist. Did
they say the N-word? Yes, a
so
lot.
It's obviously
Scorsese says it in Taxi Driver.
Dude, or when Quentin, like for instance, so not to go off a giant rant, but like when people say, "Oh, Quentin Tarantino is a racist,"
plenty of time.
Quentin Tarantino is a racist. I'm like, Quentin Tarantino. First of all, you would have to forget that he made the minimum 2 movies about the explicit terror of racism.
Right.
Like as the topic of the film, right? With like the lead character is black and talking about this is the cruelty and virus-like nature of racism. So it'd be weird if he was racist and also, mainly employed, like major black stars and talked about how bad racism was. That'd be weird. But also he has, as we said earlier, he fucking created a distribution company so specifically Asian filmmakers that he loved would get exposure and have careers in the United States. Right. And like that's action. That's real. Right. This is something that had a real impact. Like, the reason why who Wong Kar-wai is today, I mean, not like he wouldn't get famous on his own, but the path that it took was because Tarantino actively wanted to step in and make that happen. Now, it could have been somebody else, but it was him because that's what he wanted, right?
Right.
And that's an action, which most people who complain about him being racist, first of all, they don't even know it about him. And second of all, they don't have the balls to go and try and do something like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's actual action. Like, Tarantino's making a movie, like, he makes, like, one of the, like, you take, what's it, the Western that he made. Both Westerns he made, actually. With Hateful Eight and
Johnny Durango
and Django Unchained. Like these are 3-hour explorations of how tightly bound racism is to American culture.
Right.
And
I mean, not directly tied to it, but Jackie Brown is the main hero.
Jackie Brown's not only the hero, that movie is also possibly the greatest interracial love story I've ever seen in a movie.
I love Jackie Brown. That's
like it makes it's so beautiful and so it's so understanding, and so without even going off on a big Tarantino thing, like the fact that people can casually get, like, actual intelligent reviewers can casually say he must be racist when you have
I will tell you this
ridiculous filmography that says opposite.
I will tell you this. Viewers and listeners will know that I have my Tarantino problems, but that is not one of them.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm not trying to get anybody to love Tarantino movies. You don't like his movies. Don't like his movies. Yeah. If you don't like him as a person,
I do like his movie. No, it's not everything is black and white.
Absolutely,
that's what I'm trying to say. Absolutely. I do like his movies, right? And there are things I like.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't specifically saying you. I was saying the broad thing. But that's the thing. You're welcome to like or not like.
Listen, Tarantino films, you can have your problems with them, and they can be good and they can be bad, right? Like Jackie Brown. I love Jackie Brown. I love it. Honestly, I love Jackie Brown more than Pulp Fiction by a lot.
Sure.
Pulp Fiction is very popular because people like to quote Pulp Fiction because it makes them feel cool to quote Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah. And it's a good movie.
And it is a good movie.
Jackie Brown's a deeper movie than Pulp Fiction by a million miles.
It's by a lot. Yeah. It's
I totally agree. But yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, I mean, you can even like, it's a perfectly reasonable conversation to say like, I saw The Hateful Eight, and the way that it handled its discussion on racism, I didn't like that. I think it's inappropriate. I think it hurts the conversation. That's a totally reasonable thing to say. Like, that's absolutely legitimate, and that's a conversation to have. No problem. Right. Like I think that Quentin Tarantino, doesn't like he may have good intentions, but I think he's going about this the wrong way. I hear you 100%. But to say like to be able to, if you can type he's a racist and then that's it, that's bizarre, and it's true. You know, like that's the world we live in. You know,
because it's easy to just dismiss things like that.
Well, because it creates something that you don't want to
associate. Does it fit in 140 characters? Yes, right, done.
Exactly.
That's done.
And that's so like statement. No, I don't know Tarantino. I don't actually care. I don't care about the guy. I don't know him. But like, it's the mechanism of that we are now so afraid of each other that there are simply things you can say that once you say them, everyone else must disassociate from that thing. Because whoa, I don't want to get tied up in that, because then I'll be thrown out also. Like that's bad news. Yeah, that's bad news. And that's not picking on the left, that's picking on the right, that's picking on everybody. Like, we all do this now, and we've made this endemic to the way we do business. And so like now when we have movies that are even remotely challenging, like a movie I really loved called hang on one second. A Promising Young Woman, right? Which I think is a terrific movie and a really challenging, hard movie. Like, this is a super feminist movie, ultra feminist movie. But because the main character, like, it's clear that what she is doing, while you emotionally agree with it, it's not necessarily morally correct to do, and she might be being like bad and cruel in doing this, even though she's right. Like, that caused a problem in itself because she wasn't represented as purely good. And I was like, what kind of weird angel do you want to fly down from the sky to make everything right? Like, why not just grapple with the fact that this is incredibly difficult? That's what I was just
saying, and I'm not even kidding. When heroes and villains aren't enough, we need superheroes and supervillains. Yeah. That's why we need superheroes and supervillains.
Yeah. And it's like, it's wild to me. Like, how good, like, you should be able to make a movie, whatever, Taxi Driver. You should be able to make that today and have people go, that was intense. I don't know if that should have been made. Maybe the blah, blah, blah. Like, it's saying the wrong way. I'm all for the discussion of, was it successful?
No one wants to have a discussion that takes too much time.
There's no discussion because
there's no discussion, right?
That's too hard.
But here we are, like, with all three of us are born, 1971 or older, right?
Oh, it's 83.
Yeah,
1995.
But so we are fine with hanging out for 3 hours on a Saturday to talk about stuff and get into it. And I mean, Donna was asking about this the other day. She asked me yesterday. She's like, "Do you guys all get along?" I said, "Not always."
Sure, right.
Yeah, we fight. He says we fight. Stuff, so you fight about stuff, but you know what? We know how to resolve our fights,
right? Because we trust each other.
Because that's the
whole fucking idea,
and we respect each other at the same time. But but that's the whole point. It's like, no, Dan has thoughts about Tarantino that I don't agree with.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but that's how, like, being able to work stuff out is like trusting that you're going to work something out with somebody that you have an honest relationship with. Like, that should be par for the course. But that's not how we handle things today. Like, everybody ghosts everybody. Like, really, that's what's happening. Is like, we're just like, oh, he said the wrong thing, so now we must move away from him and never speak his name. Like, that's the attitude. And Jason, I just saw your comment about like Tarantino. Is like, the credit should go to Elmore Leonard for Jackie Brown. I do want to modify that to say that that's absolutely true, and Elmore Leonard is it's good of Tarantino to say so. Elmore Leonard is one of the great writers, but the character Jackie Brown, played by Pam Grier, did not exist as the main character of Rum Punch, from which it is adapted. That is 100% Tarantino and Pam Grier's creation, as she is, and because that's a story that he wanted to tell with her because he loves her, and rightly so, because she's one of the great American actors and one of the greatest creative forces of the 70s. and you want to bring that back. So yeah, he's like, it's kind of him to say that about Leonard, but in reality, like, Jackie Brown is great because of Tarantino. As a film, it's great because of Tarantino and Pam Grier.
Mm.
But yeah, dude, I'm like,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that he wrote that for her.
Yeah, no, it's really something. So like, this is the thing, is like, I feel like even movies like the one we talked about today, In the Mood for Love, like, this is a kind of difficult movie to deal with even today, not just because it's a very slow-paced movie and out of, it's out of the norm for the way we enjoy entertainment today, but also, like, the choices in the movie are bad. And I was just saying, I was relating, like, that even In the Mood for Love is a little bit difficult, I can imagine, for people today, because first of all, it's a, like, even though there's no sex in the movie, it's very much about sex. Like, it's a very
I think this
sexual
is
movie.
I don't think I think people will be okay with this. They first of all, for several reasons, right? People don't look at subtlety. So
it's true. They probably wouldn't see it. That's true.
They won't even see it.
That's a good point. Right.
The swinging noodles is not going to get them all bothered.
Right. But that, like, that
should.
It should. It should. Hell
good.
Yes. Absolutely. Look at those noodles.
But
man.
it's not going to get about. They need explicit, like, like, it's like everyone's working from the MPAA. Like, I saw a nipple, 3/4 of a nipple out of their shirt at that point, and that's
rules. Yeah, it's bad way to operate.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because, like, that's all fear. Control is all about fear. That's it. And, like, really, if you want to face things within yourself and troubles that you're having, you have to face fears. You don't want to give into fears.
I don't know how to help these people.
Well, the thing is, well, first of all,
I want to help them, but I can't.
I'm like, we are all these people. I'm these people also, and I suffer the same.
In terms of, like, that, like, no, right and wrong. Like, I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong myself. I'm just saying, it's like, what happened to the art of conversation?
Well, like, for instance,
we don't have conversations.
Here's an example.
Statements.
Here's an example. There's a thing that I saw passed around quite when creeping up on the what do you call it, the congressional report on January 6th. Like, I've seen this post come up where it's a quote from, I want to say, John Adams, I'm not sure, that says, mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent, right? And everyone passed this around like, see,
mercy
yes,
to the guilty
is cruelty to the innocent. Okay. So on the surface, I get revenge. The intent, right?
So
it's a fucking pro-revenge statement.
Yes.
And what it really does, it says what if you clarify what that says,
justice is revenge in the United States.
Yes, and what that really says, once you boil the language down, because mercy, by the way, is something that you give to, is when you have the option to punish and you don't, that is mercy, right? So the idea of being merciful in that sentence, it, like, what it's saying is mercy is bullshit. Be cruel, be vindictive, it is righteous. It is moral to be vindictive. That's what. What
would Jesus do? He would kill that fucker.
Yeah, exactly. That, like, and this is being passed around on the left. Like, this is the left's like rallying cry, and I've seen, like, really good, kind-hearted people pass this around as if this wasn't saying be vindictive. Yeah. Because that is moral.
I do remember. I had.
You know what? It ain't.
It was very interesting. I always knew there was an issue. I couldn't quite figure it out. And this was back in grad school, and I had this amazing architecture professor at Rice. His name is Faris Eldada. He's Lebanese. Very hilarious. So he had a combination of a slight Lebanese accent, and he was also gay. So we did very flamboyant.
Excellent. That's a groovy combo. I got to tell you. That's good stuff.
It's like, and he said it was some statement about some woman. It's like this young teenager who was talking about someone who was, in jail. Is like, I think he should die. Said this teenager, right? And then he says, Americans seem to confuse justice with vengeance.
Justice with vengeance. Yes. These are opposed things.
These are completely different things. Yes.
This is why you don't have members of the murdered victim's family on the jury.
Right.
That's the system of justice, not the system of vengeance. right? But we are so fucking afraid of each other in this country. The only thing that we can even allow is absolute destruction of the other. That's it. That's the only thing that's acceptable, because that's the only thing we think that, and like in pure psychological terms, right? This is what happens on, say, social media every day. We take someone who is cancelable, who has done some terrible thing, whatever it is. We project onto them our shame, because we've all done fucking awful, stupid shit in our lives, because we're grown people, we're adults, and we have made mistakes and been cruel and hurt people, and we have tried to get beyond that.
And you met a televangelist,
right? But we judge this other person, right? Whoever the person is, as if they are the absolute model of hatefulness, and we are the absolute model of goodness. And what we're psychologically doing is we are giving them our sin and then destroying them in the hopes,
bring it into the hole.
Yes, exactly. We are giving them our sin and then destroying them in the hopes of destroying our own shame. That's all we're doing, and it doesn't fucking happen. You only build up more guilt and shame. And if you don't look at yourself for real, helpfully through art, then you're not going to actually heal anything, and you will only get more afraid. So when we at Martini Giant recommend movies that are challenging, it is because we feel that it is good to watch movies that are challenging. It is actually helps you.
I don't when I watch happiness, it's not because I'm enjoying happiness.
Yeah, it's because it's fucking horrifying and
challenging myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a challenge to watch that.
Like it is a powerful thing to feel empathy towards someone you revile.
Yes.
Like that's an important thing to exercise in your heart. It really is. Because if you work yourself into the position where you think that being merciful towards someone is some kind of cruelty to anyone, you are fucked up.
Okay.
Like that is pathological to think that way.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I know. I mean,
make art. Make art.
Well, maybe I'll ask
way to help anybody.
Make the art for me.
Yeah, that's it. Like that. Sure, exactly. I mean, this is like.
Well, it's interesting that it's like I'm just curious. You know, the people who are also very angry about this art on AI art. It's like, forget about how well it's executed. Forget about, you know, what it may be scraping and style, et cetera, et cetera. There's some weird freaking shit being done.
You're being exposed to crazy shit. It's good for you.
Yes.
Regardless of however it was produced, the emotional reaction you have to seeing crazy shit,
it
mixes up your brain.
It makes their art look very conservative and reserved.
Yes, which it is.
Yeah.
Which it is.
Because we have all of us have seen portfolios come across our desks in the past 15 years.
Boring as fuck.
It's like, here's the fucking Iron Man suit in 9 different colors.
Right.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and also like here, this is what I wrote on social media about this stuff. So I'm gonna quit this real quick.
Let's do it. We'll wrap it up. We'll bookend it with this.
This is okay. Hang on. Now I want. Okay. I really have a manifesto here.
Okay.
Okay.
I have to figure out how to address this on CG Garage because I have to. My company's probably not going to even let me release the episode, but that's fine. I think at least if I can at least have a conversation about this, whether it's released or not, I don't care. But at least try to. Maybe we can get that person that we've been talking about on social media to be on, and say, "Hey, be on."
I think that because I really like that guy. He's a super sweet guy, super talented guy.
He's talented. He's nice. He's eloquent.
And he's a very, very smart guy. And it would be great to debate him on this. And I think that it is possible to come to an understanding.
Well, I don't want to use the term debate. I would say have a conversation.
Exactly.
All
right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask right now, This is. Do you want 10% of this, 20% of this, or 100% of this?
The whole manifesto?
I'll read it right now. The whole goddamn thing.
How long is it?
It is one good full page of email.
Okay.
Do you want to hear it?
All right.
I do.
Let's do it, and but it's going to get longer because we're going to interrupt you. So keep going.
Okay.
Let's do
here we
it.
go.
Let's do
But
it. Let's
after
just-
that, I have a 12-page manifesto I just
All right,
want to
let's
read.
do it.
Okay. All right.
So this was in response to a friend of mine who's an artist who asked for different points of view on the subject because she is very upset about it and wants to try and find some common ground. So I wrote,
actually, can I say that? Did she really wanted to find common ground?
Absolutely, 100%.
I'm very glad that she did that.
She is one of my oldest friends. She is a
That's wonderful.
Incredibly brilliant artist and an incredibly kind person.
So you
and
provided her with your position.
And we've had an ongoing conversation based on exactly what I wrote.
Wonderful.
Here.
Good.
So this
Good
is
for
all
her.
she's totally awesome. And let's see. Okay, so I said, so I actually think that facing the inevitability of AI, embracing the inevitability of AI, I should say, is the most important thing to do. It isn't going to stop, and it's only going to get better at what it does. So we have to figure out everything on the go. But that doesn't mean we don't have control, or even that we should think of it as the enemy. What it does mean is that we have to get our personal philosophy about art straightened out. And if we don't, we will lose control. The first mistake we've made is to use language that treats AI as if it were a rival artist. Like, will AI replace artists is a common headline. It cannot. It is a machine. It is a tool. That's it.
It doesn't even know that it's making what it's doing.
Exactly.
It just spin out a bunch of numbers.
It's a number hose. Until it's awake and can have opinions of its own, it is simply a tool, and we should only ever talk about it in those terms. A tool is something we use. It can't do anything by itself. But if we give into this idea that we have to fight it from taking our jobs and replacing us, the subtext is that it out-arts us, that it beats us. And this is a complete impossibility. But if that's the perception, it can become the functional reality, because the people who will take control of the output will not be artists. They'll be middle managers. If we give up on it as an art, it'll be done by schedule managers. They'll press a button and put up whatever the fucking thing spits out.
I have a comment on that, but I'll let you finish.
Let's see. If we don't admit we're in control, we give up control. This will destroy the perception of both art and artists, and this actually hurts future artists. Because I've worked in video games and big budget films for 25 years, and I've sat in many warehouses filled with hundreds of young, very talented artists being managed by people who had no respect for their skills whatsoever. This started with the advent of digital art, which, if no one remembers, was also called an art destroyer. And I've personally fought with members of my own family who have told me that my painting in Photoshop wasn't really art. Likewise, I know many 3D sculptors who've been treated as if they were somehow cheating. This created, for multiple generations now, people who viewed themselves as lesser artists. People who internalized these opinions into a lack of self-worth, and who ended up being abused with 17-hour workdays on pixel farms and shitty superhero movies, are managing people like this and passing that abuse on, treating them like they were interchangeable cogs in a machine. This is because we allowed people to convince us that we weren't artists. And outside of turning many talented artists into artist friends into broke, unemployable alcoholics, it massively contributed to a deadening of inspiration and creative work in the entire field, just because that became the accepted norm. Pixel monkeys is long been an industry term. We must regain the idea that the tool is not the artist. For the artist, whatever you're given, if you have control over it, if you give anyone you have control over it. If you give anyone on this thread a piece of driftwood and a beach to scrape, I guarantee you someone will turn out something great. So if I can't believe that any artist here seriously believes that if we picked a random person out of Walmart and gave both them and me an AI program to work with, that I wouldn't turn over a more affecting, beautiful image at the end of the day, then you're crazy. This is because artists have something to say. We are the ones who are in control of the output. If the machine spits out 30 pictures based on our prompt and we don't like any of them, we're the ones who choose not to use them. So we put in our own reference, our own art for it to reference, or we use parts of those images and collage them together and paint over them. And we draw over it our own damn self because we are
That's
artists.
cheating.
Or we do whatever the hell we want because it's not done until we think it means something. We're in control of the image, and we don't have to turn over the first thing the machine spits out ever. We don't have to go grab it and say, I don't know, this is what it made, so I guess that's my art. We are the ones who make the thing, and we're the ones who say. So if you ever imagine, so even if you imagine AI as some sort of automatic cut and paste machine, if you don't want to call that art, it's time to throw out the work of Man Ray, Barbara Kruger, and Andy Warhol. Because the artist isn't the craft, it isn't the technique, it isn't the brush. You may have trained for 20 years as a master sculptor, or you might paint a red square on a canvas and put it in a frame and call it painterly realism of a peasant woman in 2 dimensions. Real painting of a red square, by the way. That's your call. But either way, the artist is only ever one thing: you. You are the one who says, and everyone else can quite happily fuck off. So first off, I know there's loads of terrible garbage being put out by random people with AI. Have you seen the internet? There's loads of terrible shit that's being put out by people on their keyboards too. This is also true of all art. If you've ever been into a bookstore, you know that 99% of what's on the shelves is terrible. But that doesn't mean that they're not writers.
Have you been to a motel?
Exactly. It doesn't.
What's on the walls?
It doesn't mean that those people aren't writers, and it doesn't mean if you are working on a typewriter that you're putting out trash. These are simply tools. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it doesn't even mean you have to like the art that's being made. But as I've already seen a major difference between random bullshit turned out by kids, being turned out by kids, and the very focused, consistent, controlled, and repeatable style turned out by people who are trying to learn how to use AI. Like, there is a difference. One is an artist and the other is an idiot. So yes, we should admit that not only are these people artists, but they can also turn in beautiful work. And if we don't like if you haven't seen anything that you like yet, then you soon will. And even worse, you won't even know it was done by AI or not. So you're going to have to work it out with yourself, whether or not you can trust your own feelings about imagery you see. If you see something beautiful and it moves you, and then you later find out it's AI, are you ashamed of yourself for having been moved?
Absolutely will be do that. People absolutely will be do that. Yes.
So now on to the legal problems. And yes, I agree that they are real, but I also think that if we stop making enemies out of other artists and instead support them and join up with them, we not only have a shot of controlling how this thing evolves, but we might be able to create a situation where people can get paid the way they should. Personally, I think it's a wide net to cast to say that an image sampled from an analysis of thousands of other images is stealing art itself. But it's very reasonable to say that those images input are intrinsic to the process as part of the machine. So, so if you want to say, if someone wants to use my car, I have the right to rent it to them, I can understand that argument at least. I firmly believe that we should look after things like a Spotify style version of this transaction, or we should create, or people can create. We can leverage people's styles to be sellable as brushes are sold to Photoshop artists. I can sell the rights to my work at large, this style, and charge you $40. Then you can go and make stuff in that style. People can make money off of this thing if they wanted to, if they organized like that. But then none of this stuff happens unless everybody's on the same side, because if we keep fighting with each other, it's a recipe for steamrolling. So we have to stop fighting other artists, and we have to take control of the form. Don't let people talk about it like it's something that can beat you any more than you'd say this paintbrush is going to take my job. Use the brush, or don't use it if you don't want to use the brush, but support the idea that someone who does want to use it can be as much of an artist as any tool that you use. We are all artists together, and if we act like it, we can turn this into something that emphasizes the value of them and the conscious human ability to recognize beauty, the conscious human ability to recognize meaning in something, which is something that only we can do. A machine can't ever do ever. Stop worrying about whether these people don't even know what art is influencing the output. Number one, there is a reverse image search in Google, so you can instantly tell whether or not you're copying something, even if you're not using the AI. This is what I do all the time to avoid getting sued. Like if I paint something, I don't want to get sued for it. You run it as a reverse search. Artists should do this. This is how you do good business.
Good thing.
People reverse search.
Like this is easy.
Reverse search. You basically give it an image, and it'll tell you if it sees other images that are like it.
Yeah. And
so if you like, you know, if you're like, oh, I've seen this image before. Where have I seen it? And then you don't know where it is, and then you can reverse search it, and then you're like, oh, it's that thing from that thing.
Yes, exactly, because they already do this.
Or it's a painting that you don't remember the title of, and you can
I'm influenced by a million things. I mean, like I might unconsciously copy something just because of something I really like, but then I forgot about. And you should do it. If you're selling artwork, you should do this. It's good to do this, and it's certainly an easy fucking line of code to add to an AI. Jesus Christ, it's a fucking website. And like it should be able to check against its own selection that it's scraped. Like that's the easiest thing in the world. It's still your responsibility to not steal. Like it's the artist's responsibility. So you can't leave that up to a machine. That's a moral choice. That's an ethical choice. So let's see. Okay, because plagiarism is not always a conscious act. Okay, so but even philosophically, I don't know half of what my influences are. There are artists that I love, but there are thousands more whose work I've seen and then incorporated into my unconsciousness. And these effects are still pouring through my artwork, even though I don't know who those people are, because I experience the world and it's processed through me, and I say when the fucking thing's done. I highly recommend that people expose themselves to as many artists as they can, if only that it will open up your own work to do so. Which leads me to my last point. Some of the stuff that I've seen posted is crazy inspiring, wild, beautiful material that unearths and evokes styles that I haven't seen played with in a long, long time. The very fact that the novelty of this tool is exposing millions of people to visions of art that we never would have come across is hugely exciting to me. I can't speak for the world of fine art, but I can definitely talk about concept art. And yes, AI is a major moment of disruption, but it's also a welcome shock to the system because the portfolios I've seen for the past 20 years have become incredibly, brutally dull. Influences have diminished to a common style that's largely based on the last hit video game or blockbuster film. We've built whole professional schools that churn out people that can only make replications of Iron Man's armor. So my advice is this: be excited, be open, and embrace this movement and embrace each other's work. Together we can make this ethical, rewarding, and inspiring change that it can be. We are the ones who say how it's done and when it's done because we are the artists. That's it.
Okay, that's fine. That point is all good. I agree with it. I do want to bring up something else because Eric brought it up today. Not to diminish everything you said.
No, go for it.
With a lot of it, I would like to try to stay fairly neutral on some of these things for obvious reasons. I do, and I also want to be sympathetic to a lot of people for a lot of their feelings. But I'll just put this out there again. Eric shared with me a link from what's his name thing?
Huggy Face.
Huggy Face. Yes. There's a guy who did a bunch of AR that he set it to make it look like a V-Ray render.
Right? Yeah, right.
Right. So we make a tool that you pay for, and the AI is copying that tool.
Right.
Should we sue them? I mean, I'm not taking the position. I'm not a lawyer at Chaos.
Right.
I don't know anything about this. I'm not anything. I know I work for them, etc. But I'm
it's
not. I'm
art
just thinking
in the
about
world that has been released to be influenced by.
Are you going to show that to the other people in your company?
I already did, and they're like, "Holy shit, that's amazing!"
Dude,
really?
Because honestly,
it's amazing.
If you are a tech company right now and you are saying no to AI, you're not going to be lasting very long.
Yeah, you're nuts.
I'm sorry to say that. It just doesn't happen, right? I'm not saying that you're pro AI. You have to, at the very least, explore all the different ways it's going to change your technology and change your industry and how you want to be part of that or not part of it. Whatever it is, you have to say, you can't say, no, we won't be using. It's like telling you, it's like, nope. We're only going to make our program work on a 386 computer, and we're never going to embrace the next Pentium processor.
You'll be out of business, and it's going to happen anyway.
Yes. Yes.
That is how it works. That is how it
just
works.
Does not make any sense. It's like, because Pentiums are evil.
Yeah,
like
you cannot steer the boat unless you're on the boat. You can't change the tracks on the train. You can't do you got to get on the fucking thing. It doesn't make any
sense. It does not make any sense. Right. And while you may, let's just use Adobe as an example, right? They have gone all in on AI, not necessarily prompt AI, what people are upset about, but I can guarantee you that they know exactly where they're freaking going with that.
Oh yeah,
right?
There's something that they put up, which is like an automated comic book generator, and I saw the video on it. And they put it up months ago. That's suspiciously not available right now. I'm like, because they know where it's going, and they're designing for that outcome.
They embrace so their AI is called Sensei. Mm-hmm. Right. And Sensei is very important. It's on content aware everything. Right. And that's what it does. And it does it. And also, let's not remember that they also, one of the other big fields that's going to be hugely affected by this is not concept art, but stock photos.
Oh, yeah, dude. Absolutely.
Right?
I know someone who is making stock photos with AI.
Yeah.
And selling them. And is turning a good business with it. Why not?
What's the big one? What's the big one? They actually have a branch. They started
TurboSquid.
They bought TurboSquid, right? They basically made Shutterstock. Thank you.
Right.
Shutterstock. They actually made an agreement with Stable Diffusion, so that they will train an AI
on that shit
to make it there. And here's their deal: they will pay they'll be trained on their own stock images,
right?
And they will, quote unquote, pay the artists that have been used by the AI, like how much influence they had on the image.
This is what I was saying.
To do that. Now that's what they're saying.
That's a good model.
Well,
this
we don't know how honest it is. Come on, it's like the Spotify problem, right?
But sure, absolutely. But the thing is, what you want to build it you want to build it the way that SAG works. Because Tom Cruise is part of SAG, right? That provides the leverage to protect people that are not famous, right? So you have famous artists with notable styles who are alive today and active. If they make a deal with Shutterstock or Getty or whatever it is, and they can say if someone makes something that is very close to one of my works and in my style, I can sue them, which you can do anyway, right? I will sue them. But if they go through Getty and they buy for a negotiated price the usage of my reference so that they can make something that looks like my work, right? First of all, I'm going to be credited in your fucking movie. Second of all, you're going to pay me this much money, right? And it's going to be a reasonable amount of money because this is a reasonable outcome. It's something you're buying that's valuable. This, and if you do that, big names do this through Getty or whatever it is, then all the other artists who supply art to Getty saying, please sample from my art, right? They are all, their names are attached to all those things, and they can build themselves up into being that kind of paid artist. Initially, it's you're getting, a cent a ping or whatever it is or less. But the more famous you get, the more of a price you accrue. And you can leverage leverage that against other people. That's a perfectly reasonable business model.
Yep.
And if you don't want to be optioned into it, people won't steal from Mike Mignola. I was bringing up a very definable comic book style. Mike Mignola will sue you if you do something that's that is exactly like his work. But if Mike Mignola sold his style to Getty, then you can go make your own Mike Mignola comic book, and you're paying a licensing fee. Sounds good. And you'll also have a connection to Shutterstock through Photoshop, and then you can make whatever the fuck you want of normal generated scrapable images that are all rights free, and everybody's happy.
I don't know how to tell you that information. There's a lot more to discuss, but I am going to round the corner on this.
Did it?
And express a couple things I want to make sure people know about. If you have stayed with us for the full 3 hours, you know that we only talked about In the Mood for Love for about an hour and a half, but we covered a lot of great stuff in there. And I'm very excited about it. I want to make a couple things. First of all, this, technically speaking, if this audio podcast comes out, this is probably our first podcast of 2023. So
yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone. Even though we recorded this in mid-December. The AI world may have completely blown up by then. So hopefully we don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The other thing I want to make sure people know about, as of this recording, the Jurassic Punk documentary is out.
Terrific movie.
So it's a great movie. And it's actually got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is amazing.
It also hits exactly what we're talking about with art.
It does.
100%.
It does. Absolutely. And about like corporate trying to take control of your art.
Yes, exactly.
And of your expression.
And about living through a time of major technological change.
And how that can affect you in a lot of ways. So Spaz is an incredible person. And I actually think that it's a great documentary, and Scott should be definitely proud of that.
Yeah, in fact, I believe that one of our listeners worked on this film, and I will double check this.
Worked on the documentary of this.
Worked on the documentary.
Okay.
And so I will make sure. I would very much like to credit him. But I will check to make sure what his position is first, and we'll mention it next time. Anyway, if you happen to be listening, Sarah, great fucking work. Yeah,
so it's a really good thing, and I really want to recommend it because it is an incredibly important part in our film history. And Steve Williams, who is known as Spaz, is just a very important character, and his world was, turned around through the process of that. However, he also turned around all of our worlds at the same time, and I appreciate everything that Steve did.
Yeah.
It's funny because Jason was like, "What about NFTs?" And I was like, "Oh my god, NFTs! It's such small potatoes compared to this AI stuff right now.
So much more of an explosive. It's like NFTs are dynamite, and this fucking thing is like C4.
Yeah,
like this is where it's at right now.
Way bigger. Like it is way. I was joking about creating an AI system. Check this out. Creating an AI system that looks at the top NFTs, makes NFTs as an AI of the top NFTs.
That's so good.
Starts an entire campaign as an AI of the NFTs, sells itself where no one actually sees anything. No one's, except for the buyer buying it.
Right.
There's no curation happening. It is entirely done by AI.
Oh my god, it's like you're a Marxist. This is amazing.
Yeah.
break the system.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And just, just sell a whole bunch of if you look at it, it'll just if you ask an AI to make an NFT based on what's popular right now, it'd just be a bunch of freaking Trump and Elon Musk's.
Right.
That's all it would be.
But still, I do think it's interesting to point out that this technology, it hit art first, and when I thought it was going to hit art last, it's coming for us all. So
it's way more.
Get yourself ready.
Everything's going to get disrupted.
Get yourself ready. Get straight with yourself because things are going to change.
Teaching. It's coming for everything.
It's writing websites right there.
Yeah, coding's already been eaten. It's already gone.
Coding. Actually, it was interesting. Vlado actually had his point. Is like, well, from now on, I'm never sending anyone home to do a coding exercise.
Yeah, you got to code from my goddamn eyeballs.
yeah, with no internet.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I do want to encourage, just like with my friend who I wrote that manifesto for, it is complete. Even whether you're angry one side or the other, if you just listen to other people talking, you will end up not yelling. So please talk to people and talk to people you disagree with.
I think conversations
and find a way to through this together. That is what we must do.
Yeah, and there's two ways to do that. The first thing is to not yell, and the second is to listen.
Yes, 100%. We'll get there.
When you're listening,
we will get there.
The point of listening is not to find the points that you disagree with and turn that around.
It's
but to say,
consider what they have said.
Consider what they have actually said. Yes.
Yeah. That is it.
And if I ask you a question, you don't say, "So you're pro AI." That's not a conversation.
Because if you find that your mind has been changed, maybe that's good.
And I am totally willing to change my mind
exactly,
as well.
Dude. Exactly.
That's the point of being exposed to.
That's the idea.
These things. Okay, so I think that 2023, I'm going to consider exposing people to things that may be harder to watch.
Yeah, amen, man. Yeah,
right.
we should. I think we should do an episode which we the three of us each pick something that's tough and talk about it. I think that
happiness, blazing saddles.
Yes. Oh, I got some good ones. I'll come loaded for bear on that one. It's gonna be something.
I haven't seen the Pillow Book in a long time. I was like, I wonder if that's it.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. It's got some spicy material in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of full frontal male nudity in that one.
It's got Ewan McGregor. He has to you have to pay him not to be fully frontal. That's in his rider.
Oh, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Pants extra. That's what he's called. Pants are extra.
You pay more for the pants.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. All right, I'm off to see Avatar Part 2.
Yeah, so. I love it. All right, so are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, drink.
Talk.
Drink.